Chapter 422. Hello. Murong Yu and Feng Ro were speechless. The atmosphere was extremely awkward. In the end, Murong Yu took the initiative to speak. Hello. Feng Ro nodded and responded. Then, both of them fell into silence again. This made Murong Yu very speechless. You should be the enforcer of this generation in the mysterious sky continent, right? Murong Yu looked at Feng Ro and asked. Although this woman was relatively indifferent, she did not seem to be weak. She had reached the golden immortal realm, which was one realm higher than Murong Yu. Feng Ro nodded slightly. This time, I followed Master to the Heavenly Punisher Palace to verify my identity. Master has a good relationship with Martial Uncle Yang, so our mysterious sky continent and your Huaxia continent also have a good relationship. I hope to continue this relationship in the future. Haha, of course. Murong Yu laughed and said. Murong Yu is not interested in the other cultivation worlds. As long as the other cultivation worlds did not invade the Huaxia continent, Murong Yu is absolutely not interested in them. After all, no matter how good the resources in the cultivation world were, they could not be compared to the immortal world. As long as he was strong enough, Murong Yu could get a large amount of resources from the immortal world and then transport them to the cultivation world. Wouldn't this be much easier to invade the other cultivation worlds? In fact, what Murong Yu did not know was that how could things in the world be so simple? If it were so simple, then the cultivation world would not need enforcers. I can crush him with a single finger. At this moment, a discordant voice sounded. At the same time, a young man slowly walked over. The young man looked at Murong Yu with a malicious gaze and sneered. When his gaze turned to Feng Ro, a lustful light flashed in his eyes. Looking at this uninvited young man, Murong Yu's eyes flashed with displeasure. Even Feng Ro had a look of disgust on her face at this moment. Obviously, Feng Ro already knew this young man. Feng Ro, our wind and fire cultivation world has always been on good terms with your mysterious sky continent cultivation world. We should continue to be on good terms. As for him, you're just a mere ascendant immortal. What qualifications do you have to be mentioned in the same breath as us? The young man walked over and cast a disdainful look at Murong Yu. A look of disgust flashed across Feng Ro's face, but Murong Yu's eyes narrowed slightly, and something called danger burst out from his eyes. You are the new enforcer of the fiery wind immortal realm, the weakest of the 36 immortal realms in the Yanhuang immortal realm? Murong Yu looked at Mo Fo and sneered. He wasn't familiar with this guy, but he still walked up to him and stepped on him as he spoke. Murong Yu disdained such people. However, although he disdained people like Mo Fo, it didn't mean that Murong Yu wouldn't care about him. This kind of person was asking for a beating. If you always gave in, the other party would take a mile after taking an inch. Therefore, to deal with such people, you had to be even more arrogant than them. You had to step on them so that they would never be able to rise again. Obviously, Murong Yu was prepared to do so. Hearing this, Mo Fo's expression changed drastically. The Yanhuang immortal realm was the immortal realm they were in. The Yanhuang immortal realm had 36 immortal realms, and the immortal realm Mo Fo was ranked 36, last place. And the Huaxia immortal realm Murong Yu was in had always been in the top 3. The reason Mo Fo had come to find trouble, other than because of Feng Ro, was because of the ranking of the Huaxia immortal realm. Murong Yu is just a mere ascendant immortal. How could he be in the top 3? It should be known that the ranking of the immortal realms was not based on the overall strength of each immortal realm, but the strength of the enforcers. For example, when the old man was the enforcer, his strength was definitely in the top 3 among the 36 enforcers. Therefore, the Huaxia immortal realm was naturally in the top 3. As for the immortal realm Mo Fo was in, the previous enforcer was the weakest among the 36. It had always been so. Therefore, the wind and fire immortal realm had always been at the bottom. This made Mo Fo angry. When he was recognized by the wind and fire immortal realm, he swore to change this situation. Thus, when he saw Murong Yu, he immediately walked up to him. As long as he defeated Murong Yu, the immortal realm Murong Yu was in would be at the bottom. Mo Fo walked up, looked at Murong Yu and said darkly, "Kid, do you dare to accept my challenge?" Murong Yu frowned. Before he could speak, Feng Rou said, "Mo Fo, you are too much. You are at the golden immortal realm, and Murong Yu is just an ascendant immortal. You dare to challenge him? You are really thick-skinned." Mo Fo sneered. "We are all enforcers. We stand on the same level and have the same status. It is normal for me to challenge him. What is wrong with that? Also, the Heavenly Punishing Palace has always had the enforcers of the immortal realms challenge each other. What did I do wrong? Or is it that Murong Yu, you are scared and can only hide behind a woman and not dare to accept the challenge? Mo Fo, you are really shameless." Feng Rou was furious. She looked at Mo Fo with disdain. Mo Fo continued to sneer. "Shameless? It's normal for enforcers to challenge each other. If you're afraid, then don't be an enforcer anymore, lest you embarrass yourself. Am I right, everyone?" At the end, Mo Fo said loudly to everyone in the hall, "Yes, yes, this is normal. If you don't dare to accept the challenge, then don't be an enforcer. Don't be a laughingstock." Someone jeered. These people were all disciples of the Heavenly Punishing Palace. In terms of status, they were much lower than Murong Yu's group. However, many of them were much stronger than Murong Yu's group. This naturally made them unhappy with Murong Yu's group. Therefore, when they saw Mo Fo challenge Murong Yu, they naturally jeered. Anyway, no matter how they fought, it had nothing to do with them. They were just here to watch the show. On the other side of the hall, Luo Yang looked at Murong Yu and said to the old man, "The current enforcer of the wind and fire immortal realm is actually challenging Murong Yu." "Old man Yang Lin, you are still so calm. Are you not worried at all?" A look of disdain appeared on the old man's face. "That guy, even if there are more people, they are not Murong Yu's match. Yang Lin, you are too arrogant. Is my disciple so weak?" A middle-aged man walked over with a gloomy expression. "He is not that weak. Maybe he is a little stronger than you, Ko Ping. However, compared to Murong Yu, he is nothing." The old man said indifferently. Ko Ping, the previous enforcer of the wind and fire immortal realm, was Mo Fo's master. At this moment, he was looking at Yang Lin with a furious expression. "Maybe that Murong Yu of yours is not bad. However, he is still a heavenly immortal. How can he be Mo Fo's match? Even if he uses the immortal realm's origin, he is still not Mo Fo's match." Looking at the anxious Ko Ping, the old man sneered. "Then do you want to bet? How about an emperor weapon as the wager?" "Emperor weapon." Hiss. When the old man said the words imperial armament, the expressions of some of the people in the vicinity changed. Then they sucked in a breath of cold air. What was an emperor weapon? An emperor weapon was also a type of immortal weapon. However, it was many times stronger than an ordinary immortal weapon. In the immortal realm, a grade 9 immortal weapon was already very powerful. However, it was not the best immortal weapon. Above the grade 9 immortal weapon were king weapons. King weapons could only be forged by immortal kings. The power of a king weapon was extremely terrifying. Above king weapons were monarch weapons, the immortal monarch weapons. Above monarch weapons were emperor weapons, the immortal emperor weapons. Emperor weapons were very rare even in the immortal realm. This was because these immortal weapons were not as easy to forge as ordinary immortal weapons. In fact, whether it was king weapons, monarch weapons, or emperor weapons, they all required experts to nurture for countless years. It was already very rare for an immortal emperor to nurture one emperor weapon. Nurturing several emperor weapons? That was impossible. Therefore, king weapons, monarch weapons, and emperor weapons were very rare in the immortal realm. Normally, they were the life weapons of their respective experts. As for the immortal weapons circulating in the immortal realm, they were left behind by the fallen immortal kings, immortal monarchs, and immortal emperors. However, there were not many of them. Previously, when Murong Yu was being chased by the immortal king from the water palace, the immortal king from the water palace did not take out his king weapon when Luo Yang saved him. That was because he had yet to nurture his own king weapon. Just like the phoenix spear in Murong Yu's hand, it was constantly being nurtured by Murong Yu. As long as Murong Yu reached the immortal king realm, the Phoenix Spear could also become a king weapon. After all, the Phoenix Spear was the personal weapon of Zhao Yun, the god of war. Before he died, it was far superior to emperor weapons. Ko Ping's expression changed drastically. Does this old bastard know that I obtained an emperor weapon recently? No, this can't be exposed. After all, it's an emperor weapon. Once it's exposed, it'll be difficult for me to obtain an emperor weapon. Although Ko Ping was the previous enforcer, once the news of him possessing an emperor weapon spread, even with his status and strength, he would not be able to keep his emperor weapon. Possessing a treasure is a crime. Emperor weapon? That's easy for you to say. Do you, Yang Lin, have an emperor weapon? Ko Ping looked at Yang Lin and sneered. I'm poor. How could I have an emperor weapon? However, after I reach the emperor realm, it'll naturally nurture my emperor weapon. I believe that day is not far away. The old man said disdainfully. Yang Lin is about to break through to the immortal emperor realm. Hearing this, the surrounding people were all shocked. Even Luo Yang looked at Yang Lin in shock. As Yang Lin's old friend, he did not know about this. Chapter 423. Yang Lin was about to reach the emperor realm. Everyone was shocked when they heard the news. However, after a while, they were no longer shocked. After all, when Yang Lin was the enforcer of Huaxia's world of cultivators, his strength was unfathomable. He had always been ranked in the top 3 of Huaxia's world of cultivators. As for how terrifying Yang Lin's strength was, no one knew what level he had reached. His strength was simply too profound and unfathomable. If he said that he had already reached the Emperor realm, there would probably be few who would doubt it. Seeing everyone's shocked expression, Yang Lin smiled faintly. Reaching the Emperor realm is only a matter of time. What's wrong, Ko Ping? Are you afraid to bet or something? Yang Lin neither admitted nor denied it. His bewilderment made the people around him even more suspicious. I haven't reached the Emperor realm, so how can I have an Emperor weapon? I'm not as strong as you are. Ko Ping sneered. He would definitely not reveal the fact that he had obtained an Imperial armament. At the very least, he would not reveal it until he was strong enough to protect it. If you don't have an Emperor weapon, you must have a King weapon, right? With one King weapon, I bet that your disciple is no match for Murong Yu. How about it? Yang Lin looked faintly at Ko Ping. Although Ko Ping was the weakest among the 36 enforcers of cultivators, he was still an immortal king. Moreover, he had been an immortal king for a long time. No one would believe that he didn't have a king weapon. One king weapon it is. Ko Ping sneered. He didn't believe that Mo Fo, a golden immortal, couldn't defeat Murong Yu, who was only an ascendant immortal. No one would believe it even if he said it. How about it? Is no one interested? Yang Lin glanced at everyone with a smile. I'm not interested. I'll just watch from the side. Luo Yang smiled. He didn't want to get involved in this matter. He knew Yang Lin's character. Since Yang Lin was so confident, he naturally believed that Murong Yu would defeat Mo Fo. If he joined them, he would bet on Murong Yu. Once Mo Fo lost, Ko Ping would have to pay a big price. At that time, it wouldn't be good if Ko Ping became enraged. Seeing that Yang Lin's good friend Luo Yang didn't get involved, the other immortals didn't either. All of them chose to watch the show from the side. At this moment, on the other side, Murong Yu was looking at Mo Fo with disdainful eyes. You? I dare not accept your challenge? What a joke. If so, should we go outside and fight? Mo Fo sneered inwardly. He began to plan in his heart. If Murong Yu accepted the challenge, he would definitely teach him a lesson. It was impossible to beat him to death. Even if he wanted to beat Murong Yu to death, Yang Lin wouldn't let him be beaten to death. In that case, he could only ruthlessly humiliate him. Yeah, beat him until he's disabled. Destroy his dignity. Make him kneel on the ground and surrender to me. Mo Fo sneered inwardly. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Murong Yu sneered. He left the main hall and went outside to Mount Wuji. There was a huge square on Mount Wuji. It seemed to have been specially opened for these enforcers to duel. The heavenly punishing palace had thought this through. A mere immortal dares to accept my challenge. You're really courting death. Mo sneered. Mo sneered. A terrifying aura exploded from his body as he slowly walked toward Murong-Yu. Wait! Murong-Yu suddenly shouted. Scared? If you are, then kneel and kowtow to me 3 times. Admit your defeat, and I will let you go. Mo sneered, but he also stopped in his tracks. Murong-Yu sneered disdainfully and said, I, Murong-Yu, don't have the word scared in my dictionary. Although I accept your challenge, a challenge without a prize is meaningless. How about this? Everyone will have a royal weapon as the prize. How about this? Royal weapon? Mo's expression changed greatly. How could he have a royal weapon? He was only a golden immortal. He was several realms away from the Immortal King realm. Moreover, he hadn't been an enforcer of the wind and fire cultivation world for long. He hadn't even had the time to get the heavenly punishing palace to verify his identity. Not to mention a royal weapon. He didn't even have a 9th grade immortal weapon. What? Afraid of losing and not daring to accept? This time, it was Murong-Yu's turn to snort. Isn't it just a royal weapon? Mo, today I will reward you with a royal weapon. At this time, Ko Ping and the others walked out of the main hall. Seeing this, Ko Ping snorted coldly. He waved his hand and threw an immortal sword to Mo. This was a divine weapon that emitted a faint pressure. As soon as Wang Bing appeared in the void, a faint but extremely terrifying pressure emanated from the divine weapon, suppressing the heaven and earth. This is the aura of an immortal king. Murong-Yu's expression changed slightly. That day, when he was chased by the immortal king of the water palace, he was almost killed by that immortal king. Therefore, he was very sensitive to the aura of an immortal king. A royal weapon was a divine weapon created by an immortal king realm expert. It was equivalent to an immortal king. If an immortal wielded a royal weapon and could activate its full power, it was equivalent to having an immortal king in his hands. This was a royal weapon, an existence equivalent to an immortal king. Mo was overjoyed. He stabbed the royal weapon into the ground beside the square and said to Murong-Yu with disdain, Take out your royal weapon. How could Murong-Yu have a royal weapon? He could only look at Yang Lin, who had already walked out. Yang Lin naturally knew what Murong-Yu meant. He didn't say anything and just waved his hand. Immediately, a divine sword was stabbed into the ground beside the square. The divine sword emitted a faint pressure. It was also a terrifyingly powerful royal weapon. During the battle, you're not allowed to use royal weapons or origin energy. The purpose of the battle is to learn from each other. You're not allowed to endanger your life. Yang Lin's faint voice spread throughout the entire Mount Wuji. Someone is fighting on Mount Wuji Square again. The news of Murong-Yu and Mo's battle had already spread. Therefore, it didn't take long for the square above Mount Wuji to be completely surrounded by the disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. There were too many people who wanted to watch the show. Hearing Yang Lin's words, Ko Ping and Mo snorted disdainfully in their hearts. They thought that Yang Lin was warning them not to endanger Murong-Yu's life. Therefore, Mo was even more disdainful. However, only Murong-Yu knew that Yang Lin's words weren't actually a warning to him. When he was in the early stage of the Ascendant Immortal Realm, he could already kill Golden Immortals. Now that he had reached the peak of the late stage of the Ascendant Immortal Realm, he was invincible under the Profound Immortal Realm. No matter how strong Mo was, he was only a Golden Immortal and not a Profound Immortal. As long as he didn't break through to the Profound Immortal Realm, he wouldn't be Murong-Yu's match no matter how strong he was. Kid, I'll be merciful. Mo sneered and stomped on the ground, shattering it. Then he borrowed the force to soar into the sky and pounced on Murong-Yu like an eagle pouncing on its prey. I won't be merciful. A strange smile appeared on Murong-Yu's face. He stomped on the ground and used the Flying Cloud 4 steps. This Flying Cloud 4 steps was a skill that Murong-Yu had cultivated in the secular world. The Flying Cloud 4 steps could temporarily float in the air and achieve the goal of flying. In Murong-Yu's current cultivation world, he didn't have the opportunity to use this skill after learning how to fly on a sword. However, he didn't expect that after he ascended to the immortal realm, he would still have the opportunity to use this skill from the secular world. The flying cloud, 4 steps. Of course, even if it was the most common battle skill, when used by an immortal, it would still have great power. Muronyu took 4 steps on the flying cloud and soared into the sky. With a single step, he arrived in front of Mo. Elephant drawing fist of 1,000 armies. With a roar, Muronyu sent a punch straight at Tangwilling. A terrifying force erupted from his fist, causing ripples to appear in the void. Mo sneered and didn't care about Murongyu's attack at all. He just threw out a punch. Boom! The 2 fists collided fiercely in the void, and then there was an earth-shattering explosion. Whoosh! Almost at the moment when the 2 fists collided, a figure flew out. Muronyu must have been sent flying. How can a high immortal be a match for a gold immortal? Outside the square, countless disciples of the Heavenly Penalty Palace thought. However, in the next moment, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Muronyu stood motionless in the air, while Mo, a gold immortal, had been sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Tiger roaring imperial fist. Muronyu stepped on the flying cloud's 4 steps and took several steps in the air, creating layers of ripples in the air. However, his whole body seemed to be floating in the air. How can he fly? How is that possible? Only a golden immortal of the great, all-embracing heaven can fly. Seeing Muronyu move in the air as if he was flying, many disciples of the Heavenly Penalty Palace around exclaimed, "A high immortal can fly? Isn't this nonsense?" The experts of the Heavenly Penalty Palace also stared at Muronyu in the air with their eyes wide open. Tiger roar, dragon roar. As he punched out, ripples appeared in the air. The phantoms of a dragon and a tiger circled above Muronyu's head and let out a heaven-shaking roar. Bang! Before Mo could react, Muronyu's punch landed on his body and sent him flying again. A gold immortal is just SOSO. Who said that a high immortal is absolutely no match for a gold immortal? Today, let's see how a high immortal, can defeat a gold immortal. Muronyu sneered. He stepped on the flying cloud 4 steps and rushed up. He performed the dragon elephant Prajna and tiger roaring imperial fist repeatedly and crazily attacked Mo. For a moment, Mo, who hadn't reacted, was dizzy and couldn't distinguish between things. Chapter 4:24. Bang! Muronyu's fist smashed into Mo's handsome face, causing him to see stars before his eyes. His entire body was sent flying. At the same time, Muronyu was unable to continue flying and landed on the ground. You lost. Looking at Mo, who had fallen to the ground, Muronyu revealed a disdainful smile. At the same time, the crowd began to hiss. They did not think that Mo, who was a golden immortal, would be so weak. He could not even fight back in front of a high immortal. He was too weak, too trashy. This guy only has looks, but no substance. He can't even withstand a single blow. Looks but no use. He's a disgrace to a golden immortal. All kinds of disdainful voices from the surrounding crowd continued to spread, making Ko Ping's face turn very ugly. As for Mo, his face was ashen. He still did not understand how Muronyu could beat him to the point that he could not fight back. Even if Muronyu's attacks were as crazy as a storm, his realm and strength were enough to kill him. But the result was like this? I must have been careless, and he took the opportunity to kill me. This time, I must torture him. Mo gritted his teeth and slowly walked towards Muronyu. I was just giving you a chance. Now, I'll show you the power of a golden immortal. I'll let you know that a high immortal is no match for a golden immortal. Mo sneered. His body flashed, and he pounced again. I'm invincible under the Xian immortal. Muronyu laughed. His voice was full of confidence. Isn't this kid too arrogant? Invincible under the Xian immortal? He's just a high immortal, Muronyu said confidently. But in the surrounding people's ears, it sounded like arrogance. One arrogant kid. Doesn't he know that there's always someone better than him? Someone sneered. Obviously, they could not stand Muronyu's arrogance. You don't have much strength, yet you're so arrogant. You really don't know the meaning of death, Ko Ping said disdainfully. He was very unhappy with Murongyu. Perhaps it was because of the old man. Although he is only at the ascendant immortal stage, that disciple of yours, Mo Fo, is absolutely no match for Murongyu. Today, we have obtained 2 royal armaments, Yang Lin said with a smile, not feeling enraged. Ko Ping's face turned extremely grim. Just an ascendant immortal. How can he be a match for a gold immortal? The average ascendant immortal is indeed no match for a gold immortal. However, Murongyu is no ordinary person. Luo Yang revealed a faint smile. He was aware of Murongyu's abilities. Even a 9-heaven Xian immortal could not kill this guy, let alone a puny golden immortal like Mo Fo. Die! Mo Fo roared indignantly. He used the counterforce to soar up into the sky, throwing a punch at Murongyu's head. You really overestimate yourself. Although Murongyu had given Mo Fo a good beating, he did not use much strength. Thus, Mo Fo did not suffer any injuries. Originally, he thought that Mo Fo would take the opportunity to admit defeat. He did not expect this guy to be so tactless. In that case, I will give you a good beating. I will beat you until you admit defeat. Murongyu's eyes glinted with a cold light. Then, he threw out a fierce punch. 1,000 Army Elephant Fist. Bang! The 2 fists collided violently in the void. A terrifying power erupted, causing ripples to appear in the void. It was as though the void was about to shatter. Crack! At the same time, when the 2 fists collided, the crisp sound of bones breaking could be heard. Swoosh! A figure rose into the air and was violently sent flying into the distance. Mo Fo's hand was broken, said an expert from the crowd watching from afar. It turned out that during the collision, Murongyu had already unleashed a terrifying power that broke Mo Fo's hand. Although Mo Fo was a golden immortal, his strength was far inferior to Murongyu's. His body was also far inferior to Murongyu's. After all, Murongyu's body had reached the level of a 5th-grade immortal weapon. Murongyu used the army formula and turned into a phantom, rushing forward. A punch landed on Mo Fo's body. Crack! Mo Fo's body emitted a crisp cracking sound. A few bones in his body had been broken. His entire body was sent flying once again. Wind and fire cultivation world used to be the last place. It is the same now, and it will be the same in the future. Murongyu said disdainfully as he slapped Mo Fo out of the square. Humph! Ko Ping was furious. His face was gloomy as he snorted coldly. His powerful aura was about to seep out of his body. If you dare to make a move, I don't mind killing you here, Yang Lin said calmly as he glanced at Ko Ping. However, his calm voice caused Ko Ping to be taken aback. Although Yang Lin always had a smile on his face, Ko Ping knew that this guy was an absolute god of death. Once he had the intention to kill, Ko Ping might really be killed on Mount Wuji. What kind of monster is this Murongyu? He's only an upper immortal, but he can kill an extreme immortal without any chance to fight back? The first time Murongyu beat Mo Fo to the point that he couldn't fight back, it could still be explained by luck. But what about the second time? Was it still luck? This was strength. However, in the immortal world, the difference of a small realm was like the difference between heaven and earth, not to mention the difference of an entire realm. The difference of an entire realm was like a chasm between heaven and earth. It was impossible to kill someone of a higher realm. However, Murongyu beat Mo Fo to the point that he couldn't even fight back. Everyone was convinced that if Murongyu really wanted to kill, Mo Fo would have been dead already. How did he defeat Mo Fo, who had a higher realm than him? In the immortal world, only 1 in 100 million could kill someone of a higher realm. Those were the halos of geniuses. Could it be that Murongyu was one of those so-called geniuses? They didn't know if Murongyu was one of those geniuses, but the scene of him beating Mo Fo today was deeply engraved in the minds of these onlookers. For the first time, Murongyu entered these people's memories. In other words, Murongyu had made his first appearance in the Heavenly Retribution Palace. 2 royal armaments are in my hands. Yang Lin smiled and stretched his hand towards Ko Ping. Give me the royal armaments. Ko Ping's expression was gloomy. In this battle between Murong Yu and Mo lost completely. Ko Ping directly lost 2 royal armaments. These were royal armaments, not ordinary immortal armaments. Even he, Ko Ping, didn't have many royal armaments. Losing 2 royal armaments in one go was enough to make his heart ache. Isn't it just a royal armament? I still have an imperial armament. Even billions of royal armaments can't compare to an imperial armament. Ko Ping comforted himself and threw a royal armament to Yang Lin. Murong Yu, I want you dead. At this moment, a thunderous roar exploded from the square. Rumble. At the same time, an extremely terrifying aura erupted and rushed into the sky. Bang, bang, bang. When this aura erupted, many of the disciples of the heavenly penance palace near the square were sent flying. Many of the disciples were sent flying in all directions, coughing up blood. Even Murong Yu's expression changed at this moment. The aura of an immortal king and a royal armament. Mo used a royal armament. At this moment, Murong Yu's expression darkened. At this moment, he saw Mo, who was not far in front of him, holding a divine armament that emitted a terrifying aura, rushing toward him. The divine armament in his hand was one of the royal armaments that they had used as a prize. At this moment, Mo had actually pulled out his royal armament and wanted to rely on its power to kill Murong Yu. Murong Yu, die! Mo shouted with a ferocious expression. Holding the royal armament in his hand, he slashed it toward Murong Yu. Chi! A sword light that looked like the Milky Way in the sky fiercely slashed out, creating a crack in the void. This sword light contained a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It tore through the void and slashed toward Murong Yu at an extremely terrifying speed. Murong Yu's expression changed greatly. A royal armament's attack was equivalent to an immortal king's attack. Even if Mo's strength was not enough to unleash the full power of the royal armament, even a small portion of its power was extremely terrifying. It could even easily kill a 9 heavens Xian immortal. Killing Murong Yu was a small matter. How dare you, Mo? At the same time that Murong Yu's expression changed, the other people's expressions changed as well, especially Yang Lin and Ko Ping. Ko Ping's expression changed greatly. His figure flashed and disappeared from where he stood. A towering giant hand suddenly appeared out of nowhere and grabbed the terrifying sword light that Mo had slashed out. Then, the giant hand exerted a little force, and the terrifying sword light that could split the void was directly shattered. After crushing the sword light, the giant hand moved horizontally in the void, breaking the void and slapping toward Mo. Traitor, you're courting death. It turned out that it was Ko Ping who had attacked. He slapped down and snatched the royal armament from Mo's hand. At the same time, he slapped Mo unconscious. Ko Ping was an immortal king-level existence. Normally, he would not be able to easily resist a royal armament. However, Mo was not strong enough to unleash the power of the royal armament. Otherwise, Ko Ping would never dare to receive a slash from an immortal king with a royal armament. Ko Ping, you've taught a good disciple. Yang Lin had appeared beside Murong Yu at an unknown time. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at Ko Ping, who was not far away. Ko Ping's expression was extremely gloomy. Today's matter was Mo's fault. He was impulsive. When he wakes up, he will ask you to personally visit him and apologize. At this moment, Ko Ping was extremely furious. He kept cursing Mo, that little bastard. If it weren't for the fact that I saw the opportunity and made my move a step earlier than Yang Lin, I'm afraid both of us would have been killed by Yang Lin on Mount Wuji today. Mother asterisk Kerr, Mo, you little bastard. When we get back, I'm going to teach you a lesson. Chapter 425. With Yang Lin's personality, if Ko Ping hadn't knocked Mo out earlier, not only would Mo be killed, but even Ko Ping wouldn't be able to avoid the fate of being killed. Fortunately, Ko Ping had reacted early, or the two of them would have died today. Even so, Yang Lin's face was gloomy, and his eyes flashed with killing intent, as if he still didn't want to let Ko Ping and Mo Fo go. He was confident in Murong Yu's strength, and knew that even if Mo Fo used the royal armament, he wouldn't be able to threaten Murong Yu's life. However, that didn't mean that there was no threat. Moreover, even Mo Fo dared to treat Murong Yu like that. If Yang Lin didn't do anything, did that mean that other people could also treat Murong Yu like Mo Fo? Although Murong Yu wasn't Yang Lin's disciple, he was still China's punishment enforcer, and was of the same lineage as him. Yang Lin wouldn't allow these people to bully Murong Yu. Apologize? Murong Yu is only a small ascendant immortal, and his strength is weak. If you hadn't acted earlier, he would have been killed by Mo Fo. What's the use of apologizing? Yang Lin looked at Ko Ping with a gloomy face, and a dangerous aura emanated from his body. Ko Ping's face was gloomy. Although he was angry because of Mo Fo, he still didn't like Yang Lin. You didn't hurt Murong Yu, did you? What else do you want? Of course, this was only Ko Ping's thought, and he didn't dare to say it out loud. If he dared to say it out loud, Yang Lin would probably slap him. This old man was about to become an emperor. How could a small immortal king like him be his match? What else do you want? Ko Ping looked at Yang Lin with a belly full of anger. Although Murong Yu wasn't hurt, looking at his frightened appearance, he must have been scared out of his wits. Maybe he's so scared that he won't be able to improve his strength. Tell me, what's the use of apologizing? Ko Ping and the others looked at Murong Yu. At this time, Murong Yu was standing in the same place. His appearance was as vigorous as a dragon and ferocious as a tiger, whereas the appearance of someone who was frightened out of his wits. Yang Lin was simply lying through his teeth. However, even if Yang Lin was lying through his teeth, what could they do about it? Thus, you must compensate Murong Yu with a royal armament. Otherwise, this matter will not be settled. A royal armament? Ko Ping almost vomited blood. Do you think royal armaments are ordinary weapons? He could have as many as he wanted. That was a king weapon that could only be produced by an immortal king after countless years of nurturing. Murong Yu was doing fine, yet he wanted Ko Ping to compensate him with a royal armament? Yang Lin was trying to extort them. If Ko Ping really did compensate Murong Yu with a royal armament, then he would have lost 3 royal armaments today. This was a king armament. How many king armaments could he, an immortal king, possess? Every king weapon was an extremely rare divine weapon. Not every immortal king had a divine weapon. Once the news got out, it would cause a storm of blood. What? You're not willing? Yang Lin looked at Ko Ping, and the dangerous aura on his body became even more intense. Since that's the case, then a royal armament it is. Ko Ping said through gritted teeth. He hated Yang Lin to death in his heart. He even wanted to slap the culprit, Mo Fo, to death. If it wasn't for this guy's provocation, would he have lost 3 royal armaments today? In front of an emperor armament, no matter if it's a royal armament or a sovereign armament, they're all trash. They're all trash. Isn't it just a royal armament? Ko Ping said through gritted teeth. With a pained expression, he took out a royal armament and threw it to Yang Lin. Yang Lin didn't even look at it. He directly threw the royal armament, as well as the 2 royal armaments that Murong Yu and Mo Fo made a bet to Murong Yu. After putting away the 3 royal armaments in the Hichu Luoshu world, Murong Yu was overjoyed. He didn't expect that this trip to the Heavenly Punisher Palace would actually let him obtain 3 royal armaments. These were royal armaments, equivalent to a mortal king's royal armaments. With royal armaments in hand, Murong Yu was even confident that he could kill a profound immortal. Let's forget about this matter. Ko Ping glared fiercely at Yang Lin and Murong Yu, then carried Mo Fo and left the square. Today, the 2 of them had lost a lot of face. If it wasn't for the fact that he still needed to verify Mo Fo's identity, he would have already left the Heavenly Punisher Palace and returned to the Wind and Fire Cultivation world. Seeing that there was no more drama to watch, the surrounding people gradually dispersed. At this time, Feng Ro walked up and looked at Murong Yu with envy. I didn't expect you to be so strong. You even obtained 3 royal armaments. It's just that Mo Fo is too weak. Murong Yu smiled and didn't take this matter to heart. If it was any other place, Mo Fo would have been killed by him. Feng Ro was somewhat depressed. She was also in the Golden Immortal Realm and had previously looked down on Murong Yu. However, she didn't expect Murong Yu's strength to be so frightening. Now, she no longer had any pride in front of Murong Yu, because she knew that if Murong Yu wanted to kill her, she wouldn't be able to resist at all, especially now that Murong Yu had a royal armament in his hands. As long as Murong Yu activated the royal armament and slashed at her, she wouldn't be able to block it at all. She would die without a doubt. Old man, how many immortal veins can one royal armament be exchanged for? Murong Yu eagerly ran to the old man's side and asked. The old man was stunned. Then, with a slap, he sent Murong Yu flying, scram. In the future, if I hear you talk about exchanging royal armaments for immortal veins again, I'll kill you with one slap. Exchanging royal armaments for immortal veins. Only Murong Yu could think of this. Could royal armaments be exchanged for immortal veins? An ordinary immortal king would only have one royal armament after countless years of nurturing. How many royal armaments would be needed to be worth the value of a royal armament? Basically, royal armaments and super divine armaments were priceless treasures that couldn't be exchanged for with immortal veins. What I lack now is immortal veins, Murong Yu said gloomily. It's not that there aren't any immortal veins. Which of those large sects doesn't have immortal veins? Just rob them, the old man said. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. Of course, he knew that those large sects in the immortal realm had immortal veins. However, did he have the ability to rob them? The sects that he could rob might not necessarily have immortal veins. He might not have the ability to rob sects with immortal veins. Why don't we do something big after this matter is over? Old man, your strength isn't bad. It seems that you have many powerful friends. Why don't we go and destroy the Immortal Palace? Destroy the Immortal Palace? Only you can think of something like that. The old man was so angry that he almost laughed at Murong Yu. If the Immortal Palace was so easy to destroy, the Heavenly Punisher Palace would have destroyed them long ago. How could they allow him to remain as one of the 3 giants of the immortal realm? You are the enforcer of Huaxia's cultivation world. Your future path is your own. It has nothing to do with me. After your identity is verified, you are you and I am me. We will have nothing to do with each other. You walk your single plank bridge, and I walk my sunny path. Old man, you are too heartless. Murong Yu was furious. Looking at the others, such as Feng Ro and Mo Fo, the previous enforcer must have given them many benefits. However, the old man didn't give him anything. You have to walk your own path. The old man said indifferently and then left. Murong Yu was left alone to curse the old man for being stingy. Verifying one's identity in the Heavenly Punisher Palace was actually very simple. To put it bluntly, the enforcer's identity and other information would be recorded in the Heavenly Punisher Palace. This was especially true for enforcers of the cultivation world like Murong Yu. Before they came to the Heavenly Punisher Palace, they were already recognized by the cultivation world's origin. The Heavenly Punisher Palace wouldn't interfere too much. The enforcers of the cultivation world are all single people. They don't have anything. After verifying his identity, Murong Yu left the main hall. He couldn't help but complain along the way. The enforcers of the Immortal Realm's headquarters and branches all enjoyed the benefits of being a disciple of the Heavenly Punisher Palace and could be promoted. However, the enforcers of the cultivation world couldn't be promoted. They could only be promoted after a certain period of time. Just like the old man, they could only be promoted after leaving office. However, although the enforcers of the cultivation world were on equal footing with the Palace Master of the Immortal Realm's Heavenly Punisher Palace, they had no subordinates. Fortunately, they could also enjoy all the rights and benefits of the Palace Master of the branch. The Heavenly Punisher Palace is really rich and overbearing. I've just become an enforcer, and they've already rewarded me with 10 immortal meridians. Not bad. Murong Yu was secretly happy. In addition to the 10 immortal meridians, there was also a certain amount of various immortal pills and even immortal expansion pills. However, there weren't many immortal expansion pills. There was only one immortal expansion pill every 100 years. One immortal expansion pill every 100 years. If one needed immortal expansion pills to break through to the next realm, one immortal expansion pill was useless. One had to use a large number of immortal expansion pills. However, I can also use contribution points to exchange for any resources of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. The Heavenly Punisher Palace had a large number of various missions. As long as one completed these missions, they could obtain contribution points, which were also points from the Heavenly Punisher Palace. These points could be exchanged for any resources of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, including information, magic weapons, pills, all kinds of heavenly materials, and earthly treasures, and even various cultivation methods. This is a good way to make money. If I have enough points, I can transform into enough immortal meridians. As long as I have immortal meridians, I can obtain more and more immortal expansion pills. I can also use immortal meridians to speed up Hichu Luoshu's cultivation and make myself stronger. Murong Yu pondered in his heart. He had already decided how to use these points in the future. After becoming a Punisher of the cultivation world, I will have 10,000 points from the Heavenly Punisher Palace. If I want to exchange more points for resources, I have to complete the missions of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. However, after becoming a Punisher, I still need to complete a certain number of missions within a certain period of time. Mother Asterisker, I have been cheated by the old man again. Didn't the old man say that after becoming a Punisher, I will have absolute freedom? Why do I still need to complete missions? However, there are not many missions. Within 1,000 years, I only need to complete 3 missions. As long as I complete these 3 missions, the Heavenly Punisher Palace will not interfere with my freedom. I can do whatever I want. Most importantly, as long as I complete 10 missions, the Heavenly Punisher Palace will not continue to give me missions. I can also continue to enjoy the treatment of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. These are the steps that newcomers must go through. Chapter 426. As the enforcer of the cultivation world, the Heavenly Punisher Palace did not have any requirements or restrictions other than the 3 missions that had to be completed within 1,000 years. However, Murong Yu could enjoy all the benefits of a branch of the Heavenly Punisher Palace in the immortal world. 1 immortal expansion pill every 100 years, 1 first-grade immortal meridian every 10,000 years, and other benefits and privileges. Immortal expansion pill and immortal meridian. Although 1 immortal meridian could only be obtained every 10,000 years, it was still a huge fortune for immortals like Murong Yu. After all, even a branch of the Heavenly Punisher Palace might not have the ability to obtain an immortal meridian. 1 immortal meridian every 10,000 years was enough for immortals to cultivate. Now that I have 10,000 points, I don't need to do missions to exchange for contribution points for now, Murong Yu thought to himself. He did not need to worry about immortal expansion pills now, and he had 3 king weapons. In addition to the divine items that he already had, Murong Yu had an abundance of divine weapons. At this stage, he did not need any other divine weapons or magic treasures at all. Moreover, the Heavenly Punisher Palace had rewarded him with 10 immortal meridians. Although they were only first-grade immortal meridians, it was enough for now. In other words, Murong Yu did not need to continue fighting for now. Of course, this did not mean that Murong Yu was filthy rich. If that was the case, he lacked everything now. After all, he had thousands of immortals under his command, and there was the chaos Shenzhen in the cultivation world. Once Shenzhen's people ascended, Murong Yu would have to worry about all kinds of things again. Although Shenzhen is not in a hurry to ascend, it is not a good idea for them to always stay in the cultivation world. I have to find a way to settle down as soon as possible so that I can develop Shenzhen. Murong Yu had now joined the Heavenly Punisher Palace. With the Heavenly Punisher Palace as his backing, he was not afraid of anyone. Although his identity as an enforcer could not be revealed, he was still a member of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Once he was bullied in the outside world, the Heavenly Punisher Palace would not sit idly by and do nothing. Moreover, the thing that made Murong Yu the happiest was that even if they were disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, they could establish their own sects, and the Heavenly Punisher Palace would not interfere. The reason for that was because, as disciples of the Heavenly Punishing Palace, the sects they established were actually sects of the Heavenly Punishing Palace, even though they appear to have no relation to the Heavenly Punishing Palace on the surface. Once the Heavenly Punisher Palace in trouble, the sects established by the disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace's disciples would not stand by the Heavenly Punisher Palace. In addition, the disciples of the Heavenly Punishing Palace were not only disciples of the Heavenly Punishing Palace. A considerable number of people were disciples of other sections. These people might be disciples of other sects that the Heavenly Punisher Palace had recruited, or disciples that the Heavenly Punisher Palace had forced into other sections. Because Heavenly Punisher Palaces is to the palaces have heavenly sex palace. The Heavenly Punisher Palace did not interfere too much with these matters. The Heavenly Punisher Palace only had one request for them. Do not harm the Heavenly Punisher Palace's benefits. Do not betray the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Otherwise, no matter what your status or strength is, you will be hunted down by the Heavenly Punisher Palace until you die. Thus, even if Murong Yu was the enforcer, he never forgot to bring primal chaos Shangzhen to the immortal world. However, he still had too many enemies and did not have many resources. It was not suitable for him to bring Shangzhen to the immortal world. From now on, I will leave the Hua Xia cultivation world to you. Pay more attention to the Hua Xia cultivation world. Pay attention to other cultivation worlds and some people in the immortal world. The old man instructed Murong Yu. Isn't it just a mortal world? No one should want to invade it, right? Murong Yu said indifferently. The cultivation world is the foundation of everything. The cultivation world contains things that even the great leaders of the heaven realm would be moved by. You will understand this in the future. At the same time, being the enforcer is not as easy as you think. Take care of yourself in everything. Before he could finish his sentence, the old man floated away and left Mount Wuji. Old man, wait a moment. Murong Yu hurriedly called out to the old man. However, the old man had already disappeared to God knows where. I wanted to ask what position you hold in the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. This time, the old man brought him to the headquarters of the Heavenly Punisher Palace in the Yanhuang immortal world, not only to verify Murong Yu's identity, but also to report on his position. I hope the old man is some kind of guardian elder. With his personality, he might protect me. Otherwise, I don't know anyone here. I'm afraid I will be ostracized and remembered by many people. Murong Yu had 3 royal weapons in his hands. Royal weapons. Even an immortal king might not have such a divine weapon. However, Murong Yu, a heavenly immortal, had such a divine weapon. It was hard to guarantee that the disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace would not be jealous. Murong Yu was not naive enough to think that they would not dare to snatch the royal weapons, because they were all disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. After the old man left, Murong Yu felt waves of divine wills constantly scanning his body. Some of these divine wills were strong, and some were not. Murong Yu even felt the aura of an immortal king from these divine wills. The immortal kings are also tempted by these royal weapons. Murong Yu sneered in his heart. These immortal kings should be ordinary immortal kings. They were not strong and had not nurtured their own royal weapons. Although they were not strong, they were immortal kings after all. Even if he had royal weapons, he was not a match for them. I'm still not strong enough. Murong Yu sighed in his heart. If he had the strength of the old man, who would dare to have ideas about them? If someone really dared to have ideas about them, he could kill them with a slap. Now, should I complete the 3 missions first or return to the Huaxia cultivation world first? Murong Yu pondered. For the time being, Murong Yu did not need the missions to earn contribution points and points. However, Murong Yu had to complete the missions that had to be completed within 1,000 years. This kind of mission had to be completed in the end. It was better to complete it as soon as possible so that he would not be thinking about it all day long. It was like he was in debt. Let's complete the missions first. Morong thought for a moment and came to the other side of Mount Wuji. On Mount Wuji, other than the hall from before, there were many buildings and halls. One of them was the hall where missions were issued and completed. The disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace needed to accept missions, hand in missions, and receive mission points in this hall. They could even use their points to exchange for various resources of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. When Morong arrived at the hall, he found that there were many people entering and exiting the hall. These were all disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Some were here to accept missions, while others were here to receive points or exchange for items after completing missions. This hall was always one of the busiest places in the Heavenly Punisher Palace. After all, accepting missions was the best way for disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace to exchange for various resources of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Mission 1. There's a group of bandits in the Lingnan mountain range in the southernmost part of the Lingnan region. These bandits have committed all kinds of crimes. Over the years, many inferior sects have been wiped out by them. This mission is to eradicate them all, leaving no one alive. When Morong saw this mission, he could not help but roll his eyes. This group of bandits might not be very powerful. In the eyes of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, they were not even ants. Therefore, it was one of the 3 missions that Morong had to complete within 1,000 years. However, Morong was only in the superior immortal realm. With his strength, it was impossible for him to wipe out this group of bandits. Didn't you see that this group of bandits had wiped out many inferior sects? I'll take it first. In any case, I just have to complete it within 1,000 years. Morong did not hesitate. He directly accepted the mission. If these bandits weren't too strong, Morong would have been able to eliminate them. After all, the mission did not specify that Morong had to do it alone. He had many 9 heavens Xian immortals under his command. He was not strong enough, but were these 9 heavens Xian immortals not strong enough? If they were not strong enough, then he would have to wait until he was strong enough to complete the mission. Mission 2. In recent years, the Immortal Palace has frequently attacked the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Many of the Heavenly Punisher Palace's ordinary enforcers have been killed. You must destroy an immortal king of the Immortal Palace, or destroy a subordinate sect of the Immortal Palace. This is a show of strength, a warning to the tiger, and a blow to the Immortal Palace's arrogance. An immortal king. If I were the old man, not to mention 1 immortal king, even 10 immortal kings would be a piece of cake. Unfortunately, I can't complete it now, but I'll still take this mission. I don't have the ability to kill an immortal king for now, but destroying a subordinate sect of the Immortal Palace is still possible. Isn't the Black Civ sect a subordinate sect of the Immortal Palace? In any case, the mission doesn't specify what level of sect I have to destroy. Morong sneered in his heart. He had originally planned to destroy the Black Civ sect. Now that he had this mission, he could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Mission 3. The Palace Master of the Feng Province branch has mysteriously disappeared. The branch is now a pot of porridge. I hope you can investigate the mystery of the disappearance of the Palace Master and reorganize the Feng Province branch. This mission is a bit difficult. Morong was somewhat speechless. Obviously, these missions were all new. For example, the bandits and the Immortal Palace's actions against the Heavenly Punisher Palace had only happened recently. The disappearance of the Feng Province branch's Palace Master had also happened recently. But what puzzled Morong was, why did the mission ask him to investigate the disappearance of the Palace Master? Moreover, he had to reorganize the Feng Province branch. If he had the old man's strength, he would immediately reorganize the Feng Province branch. But right now, he was only an exalted immortal. How could he reorganize it? In a branch, there must be as many experts as there are clouds. The Palace Master was at least an immortal king. If an existence of this level had mysteriously disappeared, how could he investigate? However, it was obvious that the Heavenly Punisher Palace wouldn't give him an impossible mission. He had to complete it within 1,000 years. Could it be that the Heavenly Punisher Palace knew that he could reach the Immortal King realm within 1,000 years? Moreover, the chaos in the Feng province branch could continue for 1,000 years. Morong Yu was puzzled, but he still had to accept the mission. He still had to complete it. Chapter 427. After accepting the 3 missions that he had to complete, Morong Yu did not leave the Heavenly Punisher Palace immediately. Instead, he went to the other side of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Mountain peaks stacked on top of one another. The scenery was beautiful. Mountain peaks rose steeply from the ground. At the top of the mountain, there were many magnificent palaces and buildings that stood between the heavens and the earth. This should be the place. Morong Yu came to the front of a mansion and walked in. This was an extremely luxurious manor that occupied an extremely large area. In addition to the palace, there were many other buildings in the manor. Not far from the manor, there were many similar manors. These manors were the residences of immortals with a certain status in the Heavenly Punisher Palace. For example, Morong Yu, although he had just become the enforcer of Huaxia's world of cultivators, the Heavenly Punisher Palace had given him a manor in addition to 10 spirit veins. Welcome, Palace Master. As soon as Morong Yu stepped into the manor, a middle-aged man dressed like a butler led a dozen people over. They stood in front of Morong Yu and bowed slightly with a respectful expression on their faces. You are. Morong Yu's face revealed a trace of astonishment as he looked at the people before him. These people were so powerful that Morong Yu could not see their cultivation bases. Morong Yu was currently an exalted celestial with the strength of a golden celestial. Generally speaking, he could see the cultivation bases of profound celestials with just a glance. However, after becoming an overarching heavenly supreme celestial, Morong Yu could not see through their cultivation bases. These people are at least 9 heavens Xian celestials. Morong Yu was shocked. Although he could not see through their cultivation bases, Morong Yu had many 9 heavens Xian celestials under him. These people had the aura of a 9 heavens Xian celestial. In fact, Morong Yu could sense the aura of a celestial king from the man dressed like a butler. This middle-aged man dressed like a butler was most likely a celestial king. Was it possible for a celestial king to be a butler? Morong Yu did not believe it. Palace Master, I am the steward of the manor, and they are the servants here. From now on, you are the Palace Master here, and we are all your servants. The middle-aged man who looked like a butler said respectfully. Such a large manor, indeed, needed someone to take care of it. It was only right that he needed a butler and servant. Morong Yu thought to himself. He was not surprised by this. What are your strengths? Morong Yu was most interested in their cultivation levels. They are all at the 9 heavens Xian immortal realm, while this old servant is at the immortal king realm. The butler said respectfully, a servant at the 9 heavens Xian immortal realm, and a butler at the immortal king realm. Morong Yu was shocked. The Heavenly Punishing Palace is really generous. Even a servant is a 9 heavens Xian immortal. Palace Master, this old servant will now show you around the manor. Morong Yu nodded, and the butler brought Morong Yu to visit his manor. During this process, Morong Yu found out that the butler's surname was Ma, Butler Ma. The manor was indeed very large. It was comparable to some small sects in the cultivation world. It really had everything. It could almost accommodate tens of thousands of people. Butler Ma, are all the manors here configured like this? After familiarizing himself with his manor, Morong Yu asked, all the manors in the Heavenly Punishing Palace have a butler and a dozen servants with the same strength. The servants are 9 heavens Xian immortals, while the butler is at the immortal king realm. Butler Ma replied respectfully. There were more than 1 million manors in the Heavenly Punishing Palace. Ordinary people were not qualified to stay in these manors. Only the palace masters of the various branches of the Heavenly Punishing Palace and the enforcers of the cultivation world were qualified to stay. Of course, there were some mountains in the headquarters. As long as one's status in the Heavenly Punishing Palace was high enough and had enough contributions to the Heavenly Punishing Palace, then one could have a mountain in the Heavenly Punishing Palace. A mountain peak and a manor were 2 completely different concepts. In the heavenly punishing palace, there were very few people who had a mountain. Most people had a manor. In the entire heavenly punishing palace, there were more than 1,000,000 manors like Murong-Yu's. Each manor had a butler at the Immortal King realm. In other words, there were more than 1,000,000 immortal kings in the heavenly punishing palace. In addition to these immortal king butlers, the heavenly punishing palace must have a large number of immortal king experts. There are more than 10 million immortal king experts in the heavenly punishing palace. I'm afraid there are also many immortal monarchs. There should also be many immortal emperors. Murong-Yu thought. The more he thought, the more shocked he became. If the heavenly punishing palace was like this, then as one of the 3 giants of the immortal world, the immortal palace should be similar. Those super forces and first-rate forces must have a lot of experts. The immortal world was indeed the immortal world. Experts were as common as clouds. Palace Master, our current manor is now a 1-star manor. The highest star manor is a 9-star manor. Butler Ma suddenly said. Murong-Yu was surprised. Manors are divided into stars. Yes, the higher the star level of the manor, the more treatment and power you enjoy. You can even increase the number of servants. The higher the star level of the manor, the more butlers and servants there are, and the stronger they are. The benefits of the manor and the punishment enforcers. 1-star manor would get 1 immortal expansion pill every 100 years and 1 immortal vein every 10,000 years. It was basically the same treatment as Murong-Yu, but there was no conflict. 9-star manor, 100 immortal expansion pills every 100 years and 100 immortal veins every 10,000 years. Butler Ma said. In other words, 1 immortal expansion pill every year and 1 immortal vein every 100 years. Even if it was only a first-grade immortal vein, it was still a huge fortune. How do I increase the star level of the manor? Murong-Yu's heart moved and asked. Challenge the palace master of a manor with a higher star level. As long as you defeat them, you can replace their star level. In addition, you can also complete missions. As long as you complete enough missions and have enough contribution points, you can increase your star level. After a 9-star manor, you can directly own a mountain. Butler Ma said, do missions to increase the star level of the manor? How many missions do I have to do? Leveling up through challenges is the way to go. Murong-Yu muttered. Seeing Murong-Yu muttering to himself, Butler Ma seemed to have seen through his thoughts and said, the palace masters of the manor, other than the enforcers of the cultivation world, are at least immortal kings. Okay, Murong-Yu dismissed the idea of challenging the other manor's palace masters. Butler Ma's words actually revealed a piece of information. Those who could become a branch palace master were at least immortal kings. If a palace master of a 1-star manor was an immortal king, then what about a 9-star manor's palace master? What realm had their strength reached? I'm afraid it's impossible to increase the star level of the manor in a short period of time. Murong-Yu was a little depressed. Then, he looked at the Butler Ma with shining eyes and asked, Butler Ma, since you are all my people, can I take you out of the heavenly penalty palace? Butler Ma was an immortal king. If he took him with him, completing his 3 missions would be a piece of cake. Palace Master, you can't do that. We can't leave the heavenly penalty palace. Unless... Murong-Yu was a little depressed at first, but after hearing Butler Ma's words, he knew there was hope. So he asked, unless what? Unless you upgrade the manor to a 5-star level, you can't take anyone out of the heavenly penalty palace. That's as good as not saying anything. If I have the ability to upgrade the manor to a 5-star level, I'm afraid I'll have the power to fight an immortal king. At that time, it'll be useless to take you out. Murong-Yu thought helplessly in his heart. After knowing that it was impossible to take these experts out of the heavenly penalty palace, Murong-Yu dismissed the idea in his heart. 3 missions. Kill the bandits, destroy the Immortal King realm experts of the Immortal Palace or the Immortal Palace's affiliated sects. Investigate the mysterious disappearance of the Palace Master of the Feng Province branch and reorganize the Feng Province branch. Of the 3 missions, destroying the Immortal Palace's affiliated sects should be the easiest. The second is to destroy the group of bandits. The hardest is to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the palace master of the Feng province branch. Then, I'll start with destroying the Immortal Palace's affiliated sections. The Black Civ sect, just wait for your destruction. Murong Yu sneered in his heart, then left the manor and shot out of the Heavenly Penalty Palace. The Heavenly Penalty Palace is in Lingnan Province, but the Black Civ sect is in Jian Province. The distance between the two is really too far. I can't fly. If I just run like this, how long will it take to reach Jian Province? Murong Yu fretted. The Immortal Realm was really too big. To travel through millions of provinces was a huge undertaking. How could I forget about Hichu Luo Shu? Just as Murong Yu was fretting about when he'd be able to reach Jian Province, he suddenly thought of Hichu Luo Shu. Whoosh! With a thought, Murong Yu disappeared into thin air. When he reappeared, he was in Jiangzhou. This was where he'd been hunted down by the Immortal King of the Water Palace. There was still some distance between Jiangzhou and Jian Province. There was nothing Murong Yu could do. He'd never been to Jian Province, so he'd have to keep running. The Water Palace is at least a first-rate force. Even the Immortal Palace couldn't wipe them out. They're too strong. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a bad idea to destroy the Water Palace and move the Primal Chaos Holy Sect to Jiangchuan. Murong Yu thought to himself as he shot towards Jian Province. The Water Palace had tried to kill him several times, but Murong Yu had long since sentenced them to death. But now, although Murong Yu had joined the Heavenly Penalty Palace, he didn't have much power. The Heavenly Penalty Palace couldn't destroy the Water Palace for him. Therefore, it was impossible for him to destroy the Water Palace now. First, I'll raise my status and strength in the Heavenly Penalty Palace. One day, I'll destroy the Water Palace with my own hands. Murong Yu laughed coldly in his heart. Jiangzhou and Jian Province were only separated by a few large provinces. Murong Yu used the army character formula to travel at incredible speed. In just a few days, he'd reached Jian Province. After asking around, Murong Yu learned where the Black Civ sect was located. Chapter 428. Jian Province, Black Civ sect. The Black Civ sect was nothing more than a third-rate sect. Even their leader, Patriarch Black Civ, was only a golden immortal of the great firmament. No matter how powerful the Black Civ sect was, they didn't have a Nine Heavens Xian immortal expert. After all, the Black Civ sect was nothing more than a third-rate sect. However, because the Black Civ sect was a subsidiary sect of the Immortal Palace, the disciples of the Black Civ sect grew more and more arrogant, despite the restrictions imposed by the sect. Although they weren't strong, they had a powerful background. With the Immortal Palace as their backer, how could the disciples of the Black Civ sect not be arrogant? Because of this, even third-rate sects in Jian Province didn't dare to do anything to the Black Civ sect. They were angry at the Black Civ sect's tyranny, but didn't dare say anything. Of course, the Black Civ sect disciples didn't dare to be too arrogant. They didn't dare to provoke sects that were too powerful. Otherwise, if they angered those great sects, destroying the Black Civ sect would be a trivial matter. Would the Immortal Palace take revenge for the destruction of the Black Civ sect? Perhaps. Meanwhile, outside of the Black Civ sect, two people and a dog were slowly making their way toward the sect. A black-robed young man, a violet-robed little girl, and a large black dog. The violet-robed little girl was riding on the large black dog's back. Halt! You're from the Black Civ sect. If you don't, you'll be killed. The two people and the dog hadn't even gotten close to the Black Civ sect when several Black Civ sect disciples jumped out from the side. They looked at the newcomers with disdain. "Son of a bitch," said the large black dog angrily. "You're just a trifling Black Civ sect. How dare you act so arrogantly? Let's see if your Lord Heavenly Dog doesn't destroy you." The newcomers were Murong Yu, Little Purple, and the large black dog. "Little Purple, sit tight," said the large black dog. With that, he transformed into a black beam of light that shot toward the Black Civ sect disciples. "You're looking to die." Seeing the large black dog pouncing toward them, the Black Civ sect disciples flew into a rage. One by one, they unsheathed their weapons and slashed at the dog. Heavenly Dog eats the sun. The large black dog roared. At this moment, he suddenly opened his mouth, which was like a gigantic black hole. Crack! The large black dog fiercely bit down. The sound of shattering glass rang out, and an astonishingly large hole instantly appeared in the void in front of the large black dog. It had actually been bitten off by the large black dog. As for the Black Civ sect disciples, they were nowhere to be seen. Most likely, he had already been swallowed by the large black dog. Mother of Asterisker, how dare you be so arrogant in front of Lord Tengu? You really don't know how to spell the word death. After swallowing the Black Civ sect disciples, the big black dog was still in a bad mood. Cursing and swearing filled his mouth. Old Black, your teeth are quite good. There was a look of surprise on Murongyu's face as he looked at the large black dog. This guy was actually able to bite off a piece of the void. It should be known that Murong-yu could only create a ripple in the void with his full strength. Shattering the void with a single punch? Only a ninth heaven Xian immortal could possibly do that. Perhaps even a golden immortal of the great principle could. In any case, there was no way Murong-yu could shatter the void with a single punch. Our heavenly dog clan's teeth have always been quite good, the large black dog said proudly. As heavenly dogs, they could even bite off the void of the heavenly realm, not to mention the void of the immortal realm. When they became strong enough, they could even swallow the entire world. Old Black cursed them. Perhaps they were too arrogant, thinking that no one would dare to invade them. After the large black dog had killed a few people, the Black Civ sect hadn't made any moves. Murong-yu had no choice but to order the large black dog to curse them. Woof! The large black dog barked happily. He took a few steps forward and slapped out with his paw. The dog's paw met the wind and instantly grew to the size of a mountain. Then he slammed his paw down on the Black Civ sect's main gate. Bang! There was a heaven-shaking boom. The Black Civ sect's main gate was smashed to pieces, turning into ash. It had been smashed to pieces by the large black dog's paw. Damn Black Civ sect. Damn Patriarch Black Civ. Hurry up and come out to die. After smashing the Black Civ sect's main gate with his paw, the large black dog began to curse the Black Civ sect. Where did this bastard come from? When they heard the large black dog's curses, many of the Black Civ sect disciples were alarmed. Cursing and swearing, they rushed out of the Black Civ sect. So much food. Seeing the endless stream of Black Civ sect disciples rushing out, the large black dog's eyes shone like a hungry wolf's. The big black dog cursed. Then it opened its mouth and bit down on the Black Civ sect disciple who had just charged out. Crunch! The large black dog bit down on a large swath of the void. Even the ground had been bitten into by the large black dog. Over 100 Black Civ sect disciples didn't even have time to cry out in alarm before the large black dog swallowed them whole. Woof! This is so satisfying. You bastards. Hurry up and let Lord Heavenly Dog eat. The large black dog was thoroughly enjoying himself, and he kept barking in delight. Kill this big black dog. When they saw how ferocious the large black dog was, the Black Civ sect disciples were shocked. Then they were enraged. One by one, they roared angrily and attacked the large black dog from afar. Woof! 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 The large black dog barked happily. He opened his mouth and swallowed the Black Civ sect disciples one after another. At the same time, he stood up on his hind legs and slapped out with his front paws. Bang! 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 The Black Civ sect disciples were only in the sky immortal stage. How could they possibly be a match for the large black dog? Their attacks were dispersed by the large black dog before they could even reach its body. They couldn't dodge the large black dog's attacks. Mists of blood exploded as the Black Civ sect disciples were swatted to death by the large black dog. Where did this wild dog come from? How dare you act so impudently in the Black Civ sect? A furious roar rang out, and a large hand shot out from the depths of the Black Civ sect and slapped toward the large black dog. Woof! The son of a bitch has come out. Retreat! The large black dog's reaction was extremely fast. The instant the large hand shot out, he'd already realized that he wasn't a match for it. After cursing loudly, he quickly charged towards Murong-yu. He's at least a Xian immortal. Morong Yu sneered inwardly. He was no match for this person, but he wasn't afraid. Swish! A figure appeared next to Morong Yu. It was the Nine Heavens Xian immortal Zhou Dong. Kill. Don't leave a single one alive. Morong Yu ordered Zhou Dong. The Black Civ sect was a lackey of the Immortal Palace. Years ago, they had sent people to kill him and seize the Hichu Luo Shu. If it weren't for Morong Yu's powerful strength and his connection as a punisher, Morong Yu and the Chaos Shangzhen would have been destroyed by the immortals of the Black Civ sect. Therefore, Morong Yu absolutely wouldn't show any mercy to the Black Civ sect. He wouldn't leave a single one of them alive. Zhou Dong nodded without question. Even if he did, he wouldn't dare to ask. All he had to do was carry out Morong Yu's orders. Bang! Zhou Dong punched out, shattering the void and directly shattering the huge hand that was swiftly and violently slapped out. However, Zhou Dong's movements did not stop. After shattering the huge hand, he followed the direction where the huge hand had come from and slapped towards it. Ah! A miserable shriek rang out from the depths of the Black Civ sect. The expert who had attacked earlier had been killed by Zhou Dong. No matter how strong he was, how could he be a match for Zhou Dong? A Nine Heavens Xian immortal? Who goes there? How dare you cause trouble in the Black Civ sect? Don't you know that the Black Civ sect is a subsidiary of the Immortal Palace? A furious roar rang out, and several figures shot up into the air from the depths of the Black Civ sect. They hovered in midair, glaring angrily at Morong Yu. Morong Yu motioned for Zhou Dong to hold back for now. He took a few steps forward, staring coldly at the experts hovering in midair. Which one of you is Patriarch Black Civ? Patriarch Black Civ's heart was filled with rage. Today, someone had come to provoke him. This had never happened after the Black Civ sect had become a subsidiary of the Immortal Palace. Now it was happening again. Who could be so arrogant? I am Patriarch Black Civ. Who are you? Why are you provoking the Black Civ sect? Aren't you afraid of the wrath of the Immortal Palace? Patriarch Black Civ glared at Morong Yu, his killing intent seething. Who am I? Said Morong Yu with a cold laugh. I'm the person you sent down to the lower realm to kill. Didn't you say you wanted to take my treasures? I can tell you that I have all of them. I'm standing right in front of you. If you have the ability, why don't you come and take them? You're Morong Yu? He asked. You're the mortal who burned down the door of immortality. The one who had a spatial magical treasure capable of carrying living people. When he heard Morong Yu's words, Patriarch Black Civ couldn't help but cry out in shock. Exactly. Morong Yu looked at him disdainfully. Morong Yu, said Patriarch Black Civ, I never would have guessed that you'd already ascended and reached the ascendant immortal stage. But in the immortal realm, you no longer have the protection of the enforcers. How dare you appear in front of me? By now, Patriarch Black Civ was no longer angry at the death of his sect's disciples. In fact, he was delighted. All he had to do was capture Morong Yu, take his treasures, and offer them to the Immortal Palace. Then he would have a chance to break through to the arcane immortal stage of the Nine Heavens. In fact, he might even become an immortal king. You can wear out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by sheer luck. Capture them. Patriarch Black Civ roared. Swish, swish, swish. Before old ancestor Qing Luo could even finish his sentence, the experts beside him had already turned into streaks of light as they charged towards Morong Yu. They knew what had happened to Morong Yu, and they were just as delighted as Patriarch Black Civ. They don't know the difference between life and death. Morong Yu shook his head. Zhou Dong, kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Zhou Dong immediately charged forward. After a moment's thought, Morong Yu decided that Zhou Dong alone wasn't enough. A second arcane immortal of the Nine Heavens appeared. Chapter 429. Two Xian Immortals of the Nine Heavens. The Black Civ sect was nothing more than a second-rate sect. The strongest among them were only golden immortals of the Great Principle. There was an entire realm of difference between them and Xian Immortals of the Nine Heavens. Zhou Dong and his companion met the incoming golden immortals head-on. Thump, thump, thump. The difference between golden immortals of the great principle and Xian immortals of the nine heavens was enormous. As soon as the two sides clashed, clouds of blood exploded in the air. The great golden immortals of the Black Civ sect had been killed by Zhou Dong and his companion the moment the two sides clashed. In the face of Xian immortals of the nine heavens, the golden immortals of the great principle couldn't even withstand a single blow. The ordinary disciples of the Black Civ sect were scared witless by the sight. Even Forefather Blue Civ's face was ashen and gloomy. Xian immortals of the nine heavens. Very good. No wonder you're so fearless. Patriarch Black Civ hovered in the air, glaring at Murong with murderous intent. Murong laughed coldly. If it weren't for that, would he have dared to come here? He was an August immortal, a golden immortal. Murong never fought a battle he wasn't confident of winning. However, he was surprised to see that Patriarch Black Civ was the only golden immortal left of the Black Civ sect. Why didn't he flee? Did he have something to rely on? Or did he know that he couldn't escape? Two Xian immortals of the nine heavens. Very good. However, even if you have two Xian immortals of the nine heavens, you can't escape the fate of being killed. Today, you will die without a doubt. Patriarch Black Civ looked at Murong and laughed coldly. Then he shouted, "Summon the experts of the Immortal Palace." Swish, swish, swish. Before Patriarch Black Civ could finish speaking, three figures shot up into the air from the depths of the Black Civ sect. They stood side by side with Patriarch Black Civ, each of them emanating a powerful aura. Three Xian immortals of the nine heavens. Murong's heart pounded. He could sense the auras of Xian immortals of the nine heavens from them. However, that didn't surprise him. Of the nine immortals of the nine heavens. Of the nine immortals of the nine heavens. Because they weren't a threat to him, he was shocked. Why would an expert from the Immortal Palace appear in the Black Civ sect? To the Immortal Palace, the nine heavens Xian immortals were just servants. After all, immortals at the nine heavens Xian immortal realm were merely servants of the manor in the heavenly tribulation palace. Could it be that the Immortal Palace has always had experts in the Black Civ sect? Apart from the nine heavens Xian immortals, are there any experts of a higher realm, such as immortal kings? Murong's face immediately darkened. If there really was an immortal king from the Immortal Palace, then not only would they be able to destroy the Black Civ sect, but they would also lose their lives. But the Black Civ sect is just a small fry. The Immortal Palace shouldn't have any experts here, right? Murong thought to himself. In truth, Murong was feeling very nervous, but Patriarch Black Civ was secretly feeling lucky. Fortunately, a few days ago, the nine heavens Xian immortals from the Immortal Palace came to Jian province to do some business. I invited them over to receive them. Otherwise, the Black Civ sect would have been destroyed today. As it turned out, these three nine heavens Xian immortals hadn't been sent by the Immortal Palace to oversee the Black Civ sect. The Black Civ sect didn't qualify for the Immortal Palace to send anyone to oversee it. They just come to Jian province to do some business, and had been invited by Patriarch Black Civ to receive them. If Murong had been even a day late, they would have already left the Black Civ sect. Seniors, please take down Murong, Patriarch Black Civ said excitedly. He has something that the Immortal Emperor needs. If we can capture Murong today, the Immortal Emperor will definitely reward us handsomely in the future. Ancestor Qing Luo said excitedly. After all, Murong only had two nine heavens Xian immortals, while the Immortal Palace had three. In terms of numbers, they had the advantage. As far as Patriarch Black Civ was concerned, Murong was doomed to die today. When the three nine heavens Xian immortals heard Patriarch Black Civ's words, their eyes lit up. In front of Patriarch Black Civ and the others, they were incomparably glorious and lofty. But in the Immortal Palace, where experts were as numerous as the clouds, they were just small fries. Once they took down Murong and got what the Immortal Emperor needed, the Immortal Emperor would not only reward them handsomely, but their status in the Immortal Palace would also skyrocket. They might even become core disciples. Immortal Emperor. The immortal emperor that Patriarch Black Siv and the others spoke of was not the immortal emperor realm, but the palace lord of the immortal palace. In truth, it wasn't just them. In the Yin Huang immortal realm, everyone referred to the palace lord of the immortal palace as the immortal emperor. Other immortal emperor realm immortals weren't directly called immortal emperors. In the immortal realm, even if one reached the immortal emperor realm and became an emperor, one couldn't just be called an emperor. To become an emperor, one had to gain the approval of certain people, and that was the approval of those who called themselves emperors. For example, Old Man Yonglin was about to become an emperor. Perhaps he was already an immortal emperor realm expert. But even if he was an immortal emperor realm expert, he didn't have an emperor's throne, and others wouldn't call him immortal emperor Yonglin. If one wanted others to call him immortal emperor Yonglin or emperor, one had to gain the approval of certain people. Only by gaining the approval of those people could he ascend to the emperor's throne. Because of this, even though there were countless immortal emperor realm immortals in the immortal realm, there were very few who could become emperors. Among them, the palace lord of the immortal palace was one, and she was directly called immortal emperor. The devil sect leader was called the devil emperor, and the sacred sect leader was called the sage emperor. Of course, it wasn't just these three giants who were called emperors in the immortal realm. There were many other powerful existences who were also called emperors. For example, the palace lord of the heavenly wrath palace. The two of you, kill those 9 heavens Xian immortals. Leave Murong Yu to me. One of the 9 heavens Xian immortals sneered and reached out a huge hand to grab Murong Yu. Murong Yu's expression didn't change as he looked at the incoming hand. He just sneered. He was no match for a 9 heavens Xian immortal, but he had more than 2 9 heavens Xian immortals as subordinates. Whoosh! The space in front of Murong Yu's eyes flickered, and a figure appeared. As soon as the figure appeared, he punched out before he could even get a firm footing. Boom! After an earth-shattering explosion, the fist collided with the 9 heavens Xian immortal's huge hand. A terrifying force exploded, and the 2 hands shattered at the same time. The terrifying force shattered a large part of the void, and then both of them were annihilated in the void. A 9 heavens Xian immortal? The 9 heavens Xian immortal from the immortal palace was shocked. Ancestor Qing Luo's expression also changed greatly. How could he have so many 9 heavens Xian immortals by his side? Ancestor Qing Luo was alarmed. It seemed that Murong Yu had come prepared today. However, before old Ancestor Qing Luo and the others could recover from their shock, 2 more figures appeared beside Murong Yu. 2 more 9 heavens Xian immortals. The immortal from the immortal palace was shocked. Murong Yu now had 5 9 heavens Xian immortals on his side. That was 2 more than they had. If that was the case, the 3 9 heavens Xian immortals from the immortal palace were shocked. A sense of danger rose from the bottom of their hearts. Perhaps agreeing to visit the Black Siv sect as a guest had been a mistake. Kill them all. Murong Yu was unmoved. He gave the order to kill. The 5 9 heavens Xian immortals transformed into streaks of light and shot towards the 3 9 heavens Xian immortals from the immortal palace. You're going against the immortal palace. You're courting death. Do you understand? The 9 heavens Xian immortal who'd attacked Murong Yu earlier roared at Murong Yu as he retreated. I don't know if I'm courting death, but you're all dead meat. Murong Yu laughed coldly. Die! The 3 9 heavens Xian immortals transformed into streaks of light and shot towards the 9 heavens Xian immortal. The 9 heavens Xian immortal's face fell. Run! The 9 heavens Xian immortal had no intention of resisting when facing 3 experts of the same level. He turned around and tried to escape. But would he be able to? The 3 9 heavens Xian immortals pounced on him, unleashing their most terrifying attacks. An incomparably terrifying power shattered the void and blocked the 9 heavens Xian immortal from the immortal palace. He had nowhere to run. Bang! 3 against 1. There was no suspense in the outcome. The 9 heavens Xian immortal from the immortal palace wasn't an expert. He was just an ordinary disciple of the immortal palace. He couldn't withstand more than a few blows from the three Nine Heavens Xian Immortals. At the same time, the Nine Heavens Xian Immortals who'd been battling Zhou Dong panicked when they saw that the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal couldn't withstand a single blow. They frantically attacked their opponents in an attempt to escape. However, Zhou Dong and the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal blocked their path, not giving them a chance to escape. In the end, the other three Nine Heavens Xian Immortals charged forward. Bang! Bang! It didn't take long for the Nine Heavens Xian Immortals from the Immortal Palace to be killed by Zhou Dong's group. Forefather Qing Luo, where are you going? Forefather Qing Luo knew that things were going south when he saw that Murong Yu had 5 Nine Heavens Xian Immortals on his side. However, after flying for a short distance, he found that his path was blocked. Another Nine Heavens Xian Immortal. Forefather Qing Luo's face darkened. Before he could react, he saw a giant hand shatter the void and grab him. Even if I die, I'll take you down with me. Forefather Qing Luo was furious. He knew that he wasn't a match for the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal, so he decisively decided to self-detonate. The Nine Heavens Xian Immortal who'd blocked Forefather Qing Luo's path of self-detonation paled. Even a Nine Heavens Xian Immortal wouldn't be able to withstand the terrifying power of a Golden Immortal's self-detonation. Forefather Qing Luo was so determined that his opponent, the Nine Heavens Xian Immortal, didn't even have time to react. We're finished. Once Forefather Qing Luo self-detonates, we're dead for sure. This was the first thought that appeared in everyone's minds. Chapter 430. If Patriarch Black Civ, a perfected Golden Immortal, self-detonated, the entire Black Civ sect and the area around it would be reduced to ash. Perhaps Murong, you could rely on the Hichu Luo Shu to escape with his life, but Zhou Dong and the other arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens would die without a doubt. They were arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens. Even if Murong Yu had the immortal expansion pill, he didn't want to lose them. As soon as he sensed that Patriarch Black Civ was about to self-detonate, Murong Yu made his decision. He didn't immediately enter the Hichu Luo Shu and leave. Instead, he reached out and made a grasping motion. A moment later, a long sword emanating a terrifying aura appeared in his hand. Murong Yu's long sword radiated an aura countless times more terrifying than that of the arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens. A royal weapon. Murong Yu held the weapon he'd won from Mo Fo, the enforcer of the Windfire Realm. This was Murong Yu's second time wielding a royal weapon. When he sensed the mighty aura of the weapon, Murong Yu's face didn't darken in the slightest. If I fail to stop Patriarch Black Civ's self-detonation, perhaps I'll be reduced to ash as well. Or perhaps I'll just be seriously injured. Murong Yu wanted to stop Patriarch Black Civ's self-detonation. Not even arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens were capable of such a feat. Could a mere August immortal like him do it? No one knew whether or not Murong Yu could stop Patriarch Black Civ's self-detonation. Not even Murong Yu was confident in his ability to do so. If I can't stop Patriarch Black Civ's self-detonation, then I'll immediately enter the Hichu Luoshu world and leave. As this thought flashed through Murong Yu's mind, he sent Little Violet and the Black Dog into the Hichu Luoshu world. The energy within Murong Yu's body began to circulate crazily like raging waves. The millions of roots of the Tree of Life trembled as they absorbed the primal chaos energy drifting between heaven and earth. They quickly replenished Murong Yu's body and became his own energy. Boom! As Murong Yu's energy poured into his body like a storm, the royal armament in Murong Yu's hand suddenly erupted with a dazzling light. The aura of an immortal king erupted from the sword. With the long sword as the center, a terrifying aura spread out in all directions. Murong Yu was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. He was almost blown away by the terrifying aura of the royal armament, and he almost exploded from the pressure. In fact, the sword in Murong Yu's hand almost broke free from his grasp. If it were not for Murong Yu activating the power of the royal armament, Yu would have been blasted away by the aura of the royal armament. Even his grade 5 immortal artifact body would have been shattered. At this moment, Yu felt as if the royal armament in his hand was like a black hole, instantly sucking away all the power in his body. Even though the Tree of Life was madly absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, it was unable to replenish its energy. This was because Yu could sense that any amount of energy the Tree of Life absorbed into Yu's dantian would be devoured by the royal armament in his hand. Without any more energy, the royal armament's power would disappear. Yu knew this very well. Moreover, Patriarch Qing Luo's self-detonation was about to begin. All of this caused Yu to raise his reaction speed to the limit. Swoosh! Yu gripped the sword with both hands and viciously slashed at Patriarch Qing Luo, whose body had swelled to the size of a giant rubber ball. Swoosh! The sharp sound of something tearing through the air rang out as an enormous white sword ray shot out from the royal armament in Yu's hand like a river. The void was directly torn apart, as if it had been cut in half by the sword light. The incomparably large sword light contained a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It tore through the void and slashed at Patriarch Qing Luo. Just as Patriarch Qing Luo was about to self-detonate, an intense sense of danger suddenly arose in his heart. Bang! In that instant, Patriarch Blue Civ heard an enormous rumbling sound emanate from his body. Then his vision went black, and he lost consciousness. What's going on? Before Patriarch Qing Luo's consciousness dissipated, he couldn't help but wonder. Unfortunately, he would never know the answer to that question. Patriarch Qing Luo exploded? When they saw Patriarch Qing Luo about to self-detonate, Zhou Dong and the other arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens had long since been scared out of their wits. They wanted to flee, but they knew they couldn't. Moreover, just as they were about to turn and run, they saw an extremely terrifying sword light shoot up into the sky. It carried with it a terrifying aura that caused them to tremble. It tore through the void and viciously slashed at Patriarch Qing Luo. Patriarch Qing Luo had been on the verge of self-detonation. His body had swelled to the size of a rubber ball, but the sudden appearance of the sword light reduced him to a cloud of blood and gore. Patriarch Qing Luo, a perfected golden immortal who was about to self-detonate, was killed by a single blow. Zhou Dong and the other arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Everything had happened too quickly. Patriarch Qing Luo's self-detonation had left them no time to react. However, someone else had reacted faster than them. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out from afar. Zhou Dong turned his head and saw Yu staggering, as if he couldn't stand steadily. Beneath his feet was a long sword that emanated an aura that caused them to tremble. His reaction is much faster than ours. Shock flashed across the faces of Zhou Dong and the others. They had clearly seen Yu slash out that sword ray. How could an August Immortal's reaction be faster than them? Arcane Immortals of the Nine Heavens. This caused them to be overwhelmed with shock, but at the same time, they also completely submitted to Yu. Perhaps Yu's accomplishments weren't accidental, but inevitable. From this incident alone, they could see that although Yu was only an August Immortal, he was stronger than arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens in certain aspects. This time, Zhou Dong and the others were thoroughly convinced. Perhaps it was because of Yu's immortal expansion pill and the fact that their souls were under Yu's control that they had no choice but to submit, but they weren't truly convinced. After today, they would be unswervingly loyal to Yu. Not only because Yu had saved their lives, but also because Yu's performance had won them over. Master, are you all right? When Zhou Dong and the others saw Yu staggering unsteadily, they were shocked. They immediately flew over and asked with concern. This was the first time they'd ever called Yu their master, and they'd done so with complete conviction. I'm fine. I'm just a little exhausted. Yu shook his head, but a smile appeared on his face. It wasn't just because he'd stopped Patriarch Black Siv's self-detonation, but also because Zodong and the others had truly submitted to him. Kill everyone from the Black Siv sect. By now, Murong Yu had recovered somewhat thanks to the Tree of Life's frantic absorption of energy. At the very least, he no longer showed signs of exhaustion. The 4 arcane immortals of the 9 heavens nodded, then charged forward to slaughter the Black Siv sect disciples. As for Zodong, he stayed by Murong Yu's side to protect him and prevent any mishaps. Without the experts from the Immortal Palace, and without the self-detonation of the golden immortals of the Great Firmament, the 4 arcane immortals of the 9 heavens dutifully carried out Murong Yu's orders and slaughtered all of the Black Siv sect disciples. Murong Yu had long since sentenced the Black Siv sect to death in the immortal world. From a moment Patriarch Black Siv had sent Suda and the others to the lower realm to hunt him down, the Black Siv sect's destruction had been foreordained. This was the first sect Murong Yu had destroyed in the immortal world, and the first battle of his rise to prominence in the immortal world. He would use the blood of immortals to help him reach the pinnacle. Kill one to warn 100. Knock the mountain to warn the tiger. Destroying the Black Siv sect wasn't just because Murong Yu had a grudge against them, or because it was a mission from the Heavenly Punisher Palace. It was also Murong Yu's method of intimidating the various sects of the immortal world. A mere ascendant immortal had destroyed a sect that had a golden immortal of the Great Firmament, and even a 9 heavens arcane immortal from the Immortal Palace. And he was only an ascendant immortal. What if he reached an even higher level? He would be able to kill immortal kings, immortal monarchs, and immortal emperors. When news of Murong Yu's destruction of the Black Siv sect spread, all of Jian province, and even the neighboring provinces, were shocked, because of Murong Yu's strength and the destruction of the Black Siv sect. At the same time, news of Murong Yu's recent ascension to the immortal world began to spread throughout Jian province. At the same time, news of the Black Siv sect disciples descending to the immortal world and forming a grudge against Murong Yu spread like wildfire. An immortal from the immortal world destroyed the Black Siv sect in a few short years. He even had a 9 heavens arcane immortal by his side. Just where did he come from? How could he be so terrifying? Everyone was shocked by Murong Yu's identity, and even more curious about Murong Yu's background. However, very few people knew that Murong Yu was a Punisher. After all, Murong Yu's visit to the Heavenly Punisher Palace after becoming a Punisher was kept a secret. He's only recently ascended, but he already has the power to destroy the Black Siv sect. He's terrifying. Perhaps he's joined some great sect, and the destruction of the Black Siv sect was caused by the power of the sect behind him. No matter what, he's terrifying. We can't afford to provoke him. Some of the sects had seen how terrifying Murong Yu was, and decided not to provoke him. The Black Siv sect was a subsidiary sect of the Immortal Palace. If Murong Yu dared to destroy a subsidiary sect of the Immortal Palace, then Murong Yu didn't fear the Immortal Palace at all. Perhaps Murong Yu's backer was the same as the Immortal Palace's, or perhaps Murong Yu had nothing to lose and was not afraid of wearing shoes. However, no matter what the situation was, if he didn't fear the Immortal Palace, how many powers would dare to provoke him? For the first time, Murong Yu's name began to circulate throughout Jian province and the other great provinces. At the same time, a superpower was furious because of the destruction of the Black Siv sect. It was the Immortal Palace. Chapter 431. Murong Yu. What a good show of intimidation. When the people of the Immortal Palace learned that the Black Siv sect had been destroyed, they were furious. But when it came to Murong Yu, who had destroyed the Black Siv sect, they were filled with murderous intent. There was no way they weren't familiar with Murong Yu. Although they had sent the disciples of the Black Siv sect to the lower realm to kill Murong Yu and seize the Hichu Luo Shu, the people of the Immortal Palace hadn't done it themselves. But they were very familiar with Murong Yu. Not only did Murong Yu have the Hichu Luo Shu, but he also had the Yin-Yang flame and an ancient cauldron. Although they didn't know what an ancient cauldron was, The people of the Immortal Palace were well aware of Murong Yu's yin-yang flame. Moreover, the Immortal Palace knew that Murong Yu had burned down the Immortal Sect. If the Immortal Palace wanted information about a person from the lower realm, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. Therefore, when the people of the Immortal Palace found out that Murong Yu had destroyed the Black Civ sect, they knew what Murong Yu's real plan was: to intimidate. This made the people of the Immortal Palace very angry. The Immortal Palace was one of the 3 giants of the Immortal Realm. How could they not be angry that a mere exalted immortal had intimidated them? If the other party had been a superpower, or even a first-rate power, the Immortal Palace wouldn't have been so angry. But Murong Yu was too weak. With such weak strength, he had dared to intimidate the Immortal Palace and kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Where would the dignity of the Immortal Palace go? If this matter was set in motion, would there be more people who would dare to treat the Immortal Palace this way in the future? Would the Immortal Palace be looked down upon? Send out the experts of the Immortal Palace. They must capture Murong Yu. An elder of the Immortal Palace was furious. Even though the palace master of the Immortal Palace, the Immortal Emperor, was aware of this matter, there was no need for the Immortal Emperor to personally deal with a mere ascendant immortal. When we were in the lower worlds, Murong Yu had a close relationship with the enforcers of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Presumably, he also has a certain relationship with the Heavenly Punisher Palace. If we, the people of the Immortal Palace, directly take action, will it cause a conflict between the 2 forces? An elder of the Immortal Palace frowned and said, "Heavenly Punisher Palace." The first elder frowned. Although the Heavenly Punishing Palace was hidden in the dark, they knew how terrifying the strength of the Heavenly Punishing Palace was. Usually, although there was friction between the 2 forces, it was usually a battle between the subsidiary forces. Generally, the people of the Immortal Palace rarely got involved. It was not that the people of the Immortal Palace were afraid of the Heavenly Penalty Palace. It was just that once the conflict between the 2 sides was triggered, both sides would suffer heavy losses. There is no need to do so now. We just need to ask the affiliated sects of the Immortal Palace to take action. Although Murong Yu was strong, there was still a limit to his strength. If only the experts of the Immortal King realm were to take action, he would undoubtedly die, another elder said in a low voice. Moreover, if we, the Immortal Palace, directly take action, I'm afraid it will arouse suspicion. When the time comes, if the other forces also take action, I'm afraid it won't be good for us to seize the Hichu Luo Shu. In that case, the people of the Immortal Palace don't have to take action directly. This way, even if Murong Yu has a relationship with the people of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, I'm afraid the Heavenly Punisher Palace won't dare to take action so brazenly, the elder who had given the order said with a cold smile. Although these super sects were incomparably glorious, their every move was monitored by the other forces. Even if they only mobilized the most ordinary disciples, they would not be able to hide it from the other forces. Not long after, the sects of the Immortal Palace received orders from the Immortal Palace to take down Murong Yu at all costs. As the Immortal Palace flew into a thunderous rage and sent out their subordinate sects to take down Murong Yu had already plundered all of the Black Civ sect's treasures and left Jin Province. By the time the experts of the subordinate sects of the Immortal Palace arrived in Jian Province, they had already lost track of Murong Yu. At the same time, Murong Yu was taking inventory of the things he'd taken from the Black Civ sect. Immortal meridians, immortal pills, divine weapons. The Black Civ sect is really rich. Zhou Dong grinned as he counted the spoils. There were many ordinary immortal items, at least 10,000 of them. There were even 10 ninth-grade immortal items. In addition, there were also large quantities of various immortal pills, and even 100 immortal meridians. The wealth of the Black Civ sect far surpasses that of other sects of the same level. Even some third-rate sects can't compare to the Black Civ sect. Zhou Dong and the others knew more about the sects of the immortal realm than Murong Yu did. Therefore, when they saw the Black Civ sect's treasures, they spoke as such. Presumably, these are all gifts from the Immortal Palace, Murong Yu said with a cold laugh. If these weren't gifts from the Immortal Palace, how could the Black Civ sect have so many divine weapons and immortal meridians? It must be understood that some sects of the immortal realm didn't even know what an immortal meridian looked like. The Immortal Palace is so rich and overbearing, said one of the arcane immortals of the Nine Heavens with a sigh. Moron-yu laughed coldly. To a colossus like the Immortal Palace, these things are nothing more than a grain of sand in the Ganges River. As one of the three giants of the immortal realm, they've dominated the immortal realm for so many years. The true wealth of the Immortal Palace must be astonishing. It's an amount we can't even begin to imagine. Zodong and the others nodded. Although they didn't know exactly how terrifying the Immortal Palace's wealth was, they could vaguely imagine. If the Immortal Palace is so generous to its subordinate sects, then we have a way to make money. Moron-yu's mind spun. Rob the subordinate sects of the Immortal Palace? Zodong and the others' eyes flashed. The Immortal Palace is one of the three giants of the immortal realm. Aside from the Black Civ sect, its other subordinate sects shouldn't be weak. At the very least, they should be third-rate powers. With our current strength, we can't touch them. Moron-yu shook his head, rejecting his own plan. We've already completed one of the three missions. There's still one mission left: exterminating the bandits and investigating the mysterious disappearance of the Immortal Palace's palace master. Which mission should we do first? Moron-yu muttered to himself. The remaining two missions were clearly about exterminating the bandits. They were relatively easy to complete. However, this was based on the fact that Moron-yu had the Xian Immortal of the Nine Heavens as his subordinates. In truth, for the current Moron-yu, these three missions were impossible to complete. After all, he was only an Ascendant Immortal. When the Heavenly Punisher Palace gave him these three missions, they probably didn't take into account that Moron-yu had the Xian Immortal of the Nine Heavens as his subordinates. However, if the bandits were able to exterminate a few unranked sects, it was likely that they also had a Xian Immortal of the Nine Heavens among them. After all, the Heavenly Punisher Palace didn't explain what kind of experts those unranked sects had. If they could easily exterminate a sect like the Black Civ sect, then the bandits would be even more powerful. However, if these bandits really only exterminated a few unranked sects, would the Heavenly Punisher Palace really eradicate them? Moron-yu expressed his doubts. This was because of the three missions Moron-yu had received. Two of them were related to the Heavenly Punisher Palace's interests. Given the Heavenly Punisher Palace's way of doing things, if the bandits hadn't harmed their interests, why would they exterminate them? There must be something fishy about this. These bandits must have harmed the Heavenly Punisher Palace's interests. However, it wasn't too serious. Otherwise, the Heavenly Punisher Palace would have sent experts to exterminate them long ago. They wouldn't have become Moron-yu's missions. Where did these bandits come from? Moron-yu's interest was piqued. His figure flashed, and he disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was already in the vicinity of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. The bandits were in the South Ridge region. Moron-yu had to return to the South Ridge region first before he could make contact with them. The key question now was whether he should return to the Heavenly Punisher Palace to hand in his mission or exterminate the bandits first. I'll return a hand in my mission first, then exchange it for information on the bandits. Moron-yu muttered to himself for a moment, then decided to return to the Heavenly Punisher Palace first. Mount Wuji, within one of the contribution palaces. What? You've already exterminated the Black Civ sect? When Moron-yu handed in his mission, the Heavenly Punisher Palace Elder in charge of the mission couldn't help but cry out in alarm. He couldn't help but find it hard to believe. Moron-yu was only an Ascendant Immortal. How could he exterminate the Black Civ sect, which had a golden immortal of the great firmament overseeing it? That's right. In addition, there were 3 Nine Heavens Xian Immortals from the Immortal Palace. Apart from the disciples who weren't in the Black Civ sect, not a single one of them was able to escape. They were all killed. Moron-yu said coolly. The Heavenly Punisher Palace's elder looked at Moron-yu in bewilderment. He simply couldn't believe it. We still need to confirm this matter. Come back here in half a day. With these words, the Heavenly Punisher Palace elder hurriedly left and entered the back of the palace. Morong Yu shrugged. He didn't have any objections to this. After all, this was the normal procedure. Before half a day had passed, a disciple of the Heavenly Punisher Palace found Morong Yu and brought him to a building behind the palace. The Black Sieve sect was exterminated, along with the 39 Heavens Xian immortals from the Immortal Palace. Your mission should be considered complete. But how did you, an ascendant immortal, accomplish it? I heard that there were 9 Heavens Xian immortals helping you. The Heavenly Punisher Palace elder stared at Morong Yu and asked, "Those 9 Heavens Xian immortals were my friends." Elder, this mission didn't say that I couldn't ask for help, right? I should be considered to have completed the mission, right? Morong Yu said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Of course, as long as you have the ability, you can ask any expert to help you complete the mission. The elder nodded. So can I go now? Morong Yu didn't want to stay here any longer. He had a nagging feeling that someone was secretly spying on him, which made him feel very uncomfortable. This kid ascended from the cultivation world not long ago. Although he has a close relationship with Yang Lin didn't do anything. How did he make friends with people with decent strength? After Morong Yu left, the elder spoke in a low voice. At the same time, the hall flashed and several figures appeared out of thin air. Chapter 432. This is a strange kid. An old man who had just appeared in the hall said with a smile. This kid has secrets. He has just ascended, but he was able to get acquainted with a 9 Heavens Xian immortal realm immortal. Does this mean that he is very popular? Or does he have powerful means? Another old man said, this kid does have secrets. Moreover, he has just ascended not long ago, but his strength has already increased to the mighty immortal realm. It has even been less than 1,000 years since he went from immortal to his current realm. He went from immortal to a mighty immortal realm in just a few hundred years. The other old men's faces showed surprise and disbelief. They were experienced people and knew that it was not easy to increase one's strength. That's right. We have investigated Morong Yu's background in detail. The previous enforcer of Huaxia's world of cultivators, Yang Lin, also paid special attention to this kid. He went from immortal to a mighty immortal realm in just a few hundred years. This kid is really amazing. However, could he really reach such a high level in such a short period of time? Could it be that he used elixirs to increase his strength? An old man said doubtfully. His foundation is very solid, and he is not impetuous at all. He definitely did not rely on elixirs to increase his strength. If that is the case, then this kid's aptitude is too heaven-defying. If that is the case, our Heavenly Punisher Palace will soon have a heaven-defying guy. I have a hunch that this kid will definitely bring us, and even the Heavenly Punisher Palace, some surprises. If Morong Yu's aptitude was really so heaven-defying, it would naturally bring them a surprise. This kid is worth training, an old man said. Morong Yu, who had already left the hall, did not know that these old men were talking about him behind his back. He had also become the focus of these old men. At this time, he was in another hall. As the saying goes, know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. Although the bandits did not look like much, it was hard to say that they were not strong. Morong Yu needed their information in order to know the enemy, as well as himself. I thought 10,000 points were a lot, but the information about these bandits cost 100 points. Morong Yu's face showed a painful expression. After he became the enforcer of Huaxia's world of cultivators, he directly had 10,000 points. He originally thought that the points were a lot, but now he realized that 10,000 points were simply insignificant. It was too little. There wasn't much information about those bandits. It only explained their location and introduced the information that the Heavenly Penalty Palace had on those bandits. 5 9 Heavens Xian Immortals and 20 Almighty Immortals. When Morong Yu saw the information of these bandits, he could not help but reveal a look of surprise. 5 9 heavens, Xian immortals, and 20 perfected golden immortals were the standard arrangement of a third-rate force in the immortal world. In other words, this bandit was a third-rate force. If I'm truly alone, I'm afraid that I can only complete these missions before the 1,000-year deadline. Or perhaps I won't be able to complete them within 1,000 years. Yu muttered to himself as he pondered. Would his strength be able to reach the 9 heavens, Xian, immortal realm within 1,000 years? Only by reaching that stage would he have the power to exterminate the Black Civ sect as well as these bandits. However, Yu himself did not have the confidence to reach the 9 heavens, Xian, immortal realm within 1,000 years. After all, the realms in the immortal world were different from those in the cultivation world. In each realm, there were countless immortals who were unable to break through. Although Yu knew that he would definitely break through to the 9 heavens, Xian, immortal realm by practicing the chaotic celestial records, who could guarantee that he would break through? The chaotic celestial records was really too difficult to practice. However, Yu now had more than a dozen 9 heaven Xian immortals under his command. If there were no accidents, they would be more than enough to deal with these bandits. I'll also take a look at what I can exchange for with 10,000 points. Yu began to inquire about the items in the main hall. A royal weapon. It costs 10 million points. Yu inquired about the exchange rate for a divine weapon. When he looked at it, he almost fainted from shock. 10 million points to exchange for a royal weapon. This was really too much. Yu was stunned. His 10,000 points couldn't even be exchanged for a corner of a royal weapon. I wonder if there are any monarch weapons or emperor weapons to exchange. Yu continued to inquire. Not long after, he was shocked again. There really are monarch weapons to exchange, but the points... Yu was speechless. Monarch weapons could be exchanged, but the points required were too high. The points required to exchange for a monarch weapon were 10,000 times the points required to exchange for a monarch weapon. In other words, if he wanted to exchange for a monarch weapon, he would need at least 100 billion points. I really wonder if there's anyone in the Heavenly Penalty Palace who can exchange for a monarch weapon with points. That's 100 billion points. How many missions do you need to complete to accumulate that much? Yu is simply speechless. Previously, he had inquired about some missions and found that the points required to complete those missions were too little. There were only a few dozen, a few hundred, or a few thousand points. If a mission required a few thousand points, when would he be able to accumulate 100 billion points? He was afraid that by the time he had accumulated so many points, his realm wouldn't just be at the immortal monarch realm. Yu was speechless. I wonder if there are any emperor weapons to exchange. Yu continued to inquire. However, no matter how hard he looked, he couldn't find any information about exchanging for emperor weapons. Emperor weapons, those are emperor weapons. Even if there are emperor weapons, the people in the Heavenly Penalty Palace wouldn't be able to exchange for them. Moreover, there aren't many emperor weapons in the immortal world. Even if the Heavenly Penalty Palace has an emperor weapon, I'm afraid that it would be a sect treasure. How could they take it out for others to exchange for it? After that, Yu looked at some other items to exchange for and found that his 10,000 points were really useless. At first, I thought that the Heavenly Penalty Palace was really generous. It seems like that's not the case. Yu rolled his eyes and despised the Heavenly Penalty Palace. His 10,000 points could only be exchanged for some unimportant information, immortal pills, spiritual materials, and so on. It was impossible to exchange for anything good. Everything requires one's own effort. It's impossible to exchange for good things with the Heavenly Penalty Palace's points. Yu dispelled the idea of doing Heavenly Penalty Palace missions to increase his contribution points. If that was the case, he would be busy with missions all day long. If he had that time, he might as well use it for cultivation. Once he became strong enough, he wouldn't have to worry about not having enough resources. Besides, the treasures in Yu's hands were definitely superior to emperor weapons. He didn't need to exchange for emperor weapons or the like. He didn't even need those pills. First, I'll deal with those bandits. Then, I'll investigate the mysterious disappearance of the palace master of the Phone Province branch. Murong Yu left Mount Wuji. He didn't even go back to the manor. He left the Heavenly Penalty Palace directly. Not long after he left the Heavenly Penalty Palace, his figure flashed, and he entered the Hichu, Luoshu world. Hichu, how's the devouring of those immortal weapons coming along? Murong Yu asked when he found Hichu. After destroying the Black Civ sect, Murong Yu had given the rest of the immortal weapons to Hichu, with the exception of the 9th grade and 8th grade immortal weapons. In the Immortal Necropolis, Murong Yu had obtained one of the 4 immortal swords, the Demortis sword. However, the Demortis sword was only a damaged immortal sword. If it wanted to recover, it would have to devour a large number of weapons and magic treasures. Before, Murong Yu hadn't had any immortal weapons for the Demortis sword to devour. After destroying the Black Civ sect, he'd obtained more than 10,000 immortal weapons of various grades. It's better than expected, Hichu said with a smile. After devouring a few thousand immortal weapons, the Demortis sword has recovered a portion of its strength. It's now a 5th grade immortal weapon. Only a 5th grade immortal weapon? Murong Yu frowned. Although the Demortis sword had only devoured a few thousand immortal weapons to reach the 5th grade immortal weapon level, one shouldn't forget that the higher the grade of the immortal weapon, the more immortal weapons it would need to devour, and the higher the grade of the weapons. After reaching the 5th grade immortal weapon level, the Demortis sword wouldn't be able to recover by devouring any immortal weapons below the 5th grade level. The immortal weapons it had obtained from the Black Civ sect might only be able to raise the Demortis sword to the 7th grade level. What level is the Demortis sword? Is it an imperial weapon? Murong Yu frowned, looking at Hichu. He'd asked Hichu this question before, and Hichu's answer was that although the 4 immortal swords were called immortal swords, they surpassed immortal weapons. Imperial weapon? Perhaps. If it wants to recover to its peak, I'm afraid it'll need to devour an imperial weapon. Devour an imperial weapon? Murong Yu was shocked. Where'd he get an imperial weapon for the Demortis sword to devour? Even if he did, he wouldn't let the Demortis sword devour it. After all, imperial weapons were already the most powerful weapons in the immortal world. Could the Demortis sword be a divine weapon? I can only tell you that even if the Demortis sword isn't as good as the Bow of Heaven and Earth and the Yin Yang Cauldron, it's definitely as strong as an imperial weapon. Hichu smiled. Could it really be a divine weapon? Murong Yu frowned. If it really was a divine weapon, it would be worth it to let his imperial weapon devour it. All right, you continue to help the Demortis sword devour immortal weapons. I'll go take a look at the bandits. Murong Yu left Hichu Luoshu, taking Little Purple, the big black dog, and Zodong with him. The bandits were in the south of Lingnan province, far away from the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Murong Yu hadn't been there before, so he could only walk there. Lingnan province was huge, many times larger than the entire Huaxia cultivation world. Just take it as a tour of the immortal world. Murong Yu smiled. It was because of this that he'd brought the big black dog and Little Purple out of Hichu Luoshu world. To Murong Yu and the big black dog, everything in the immortal world was unfamiliar. And to Little Purple, who was only 7 or 8 years old, everything in the immortal world was so new. Little Purple, where did you come from? Looking at the excited Little Purple riding on the big black dog's back, Murong Yu began to suspect her identity. Looking at her, it seemed as if she'd never lived in the immortal world before. It seemed as if she'd ascended from below. Chapter 433. It had been some time since Murong Yu ascended to the immortal world. Although it hadn't been long, he had to start thinking about Shenzhen. Shenzhen had the advantage of numbers. Because of the Immortal Ascension Pill, a large number of immortals had appeared. As time passed, more and more immortals would appear in Shenzhen. With more immortals, Shenzhen would naturally become stronger. However, Murong Yu had become the enforcer of Huaxia's cultivation world. Even if he didn't take special care of Shenzhen, Shenzhen was still the most powerful sect in Huaxia's cultivation world. Therefore, Murong Yu no longer considered Shenzhen's development in the cultivation world. Instead, He set his sights on the immortal world. Moreover, there were many immortals in Shenzhen. However, if they stayed in the cultivation world, it wouldn't be good for them, because there was no immortal spiritual energy in the cultivation world. If immortals wanted to cultivate, they needed immortal spiritual energy. Without the support of immortal spiritual energy, they couldn't improve their cultivation. In other words, if Shenzhen's immortals didn't ascend to the immortal world, they wouldn't be able to improve their cultivation and become stronger. The longer it took, the more unfavorable it would be for Shenzhen's immortals. Only by ascending to the immortal world could they continue to improve their strength. However, the problem now was that Murong didn't establish a sect in the immortal world. Without a sect, there was no way to settle down Shenzhen's immortals. Could it be that Shenzhen's disciples would fly southeast after ascending to the immortal world? That was impossible. Murong established Shenzhen in the cultivation world. His disciples would never be allowed to leave Shenzhen. However, Murong now had many powerful enemies in the immortal world. If he wanted to establish a Shenzhen, he would probably be destroyed by the immortal palace. With Murong's current strength, it was impossible for him to fight against the immortal palace. Shenzhen must be established. Only after Shenzhen's disciples ascend to the immortal plane will I have the foundation to fight against forces like the immortal palace, Murong said to himself. As long as he ascended to the immortal world, Murong could rely on the immortal expansion pill to elevate Shenzhen to a third-rate sect with a large number of 9 heaven Xian immortals. However, they needed to find a place to establish their sect. Murong walked all the way to the southern part of Lingnan region. At the same time, he was also looking for a suitable place for the Chaos Shenzhen sect in Lingnan region. However, along the way, Murong found that all the slightly better places had been occupied by some sections. It was extremely difficult to find a good place to establish a sect in Lingnan region. After establishing Shenzhen in the immortal world, will it be attached to the Heavenly Punisher Palace and become a subsidiary sect of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, or establish its own sect? Murong frowned slightly. After becoming a subsidiary sect of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, because of Murong, a subsidiary sect like the Chaos Shenzhen was different from ordinary subsidiary sections. It could even become a branch of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. However, in this way, the development of Shenzhen would be restricted by the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Murong shook his head and rejected this idea. Once Shenzhen became a subsidiary sect of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, it would not be a pure Chaos Shenzhen. If I establish a completely independent sect, it would not be restricted by the Heavenly Punisher Palace, but it would also not be protected by the Heavenly Punisher Palace. In this way, in the early stages, it would be inappropriate for me, the Holy Lord, to show my face. Once the news of Murong establishing a sect spread out, he was afraid that the people of the Immortal Palace would immediately destroy Shenzhen. First, after destroying that group of bandits, I will go to other large regions to see if there is a suitable place to establish a sect. Murong sped up and arrived at the Southern Mountains in a few days. The Southern Mountains was the southern part of the Lingnan region, or even the largest mountain range in the entire Lingnan region. The entire Southern Mountains almost cut the Lingnan region into 2 halves. The immortal spiritual energy in the Southern Mountains is very rich, but why haven't I seen many sects along the way? After entering the Southern Mountains, Murong saw the rich immortal spiritual energy in the Southern Mountains. The richness of the immortal spiritual energy was almost comparable to the outside of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. However, with such rich immortal spiritual energy, there are no sects established here. In terms of power, the bandits that Murong wanted to eradicate this time could be considered a group of forces. The Lingnan region is one of the largest regions in the immortal world. There are many forces here, and it is very complicated. Almost all the slightly better places have various sects and forces, but the Southern Mountains has always been without a sect. However, it is said that a long time ago, a sect once appeared in the Southern Mountains. Zhou Dong frowned slightly and said with some uncertainty, although Zhou Dong was a 9 heaven Xian immortal, He was not originally from the Lingnan region, and his force was not very good. He did not know much about this. There used to be a sect, but now there is no sect? Morong Yu frowned slightly. Zhou Dong shook his head. I'm not clear about the real reason. It seems that the Southern Mountains is a common taboo for all sects in the Lingnan region. No sect dares to establish a sect here. As for the reason, I only heard rumors and do not know what it is. Something is strange. Morong Yu frowned slightly. The Southern Mountains is a common taboo for all sects in the Lingnan region. If this was true, then there must be something strange in the Southern Mountains. Or it could be said that a long time ago, something happened in the Southern Mountains. These things that happened in the past made all the sects in the Lingnan region not dare to establish a sect here. If this was true, then it could also explain why the Southern Mountains, which divided the Lingnan region into the Northern and Southern Mountains, only had that group of bandits. If there is really only that group of bandits, then this mission is even more strange. Morong Yu thought to himself. According to the information obtained by the Heavenly Punisher Palace, Morong Yu went directly into the Southern Mountains, because that group of bandits sect was in the depths of the Southern Mountains. As he went deeper, the immortal spirit chi in the Southern Mountains became denser. Such dense immortal spirit chi, but not many sects dare to establish a sect here. What a pity. Morong Yu shook his head and kept lamenting. No matter what happened in the Southern Mountains, to the extent that those big sects in the Lingnan region do not dare to establish a sect here. However, it is not my style to leave such a precious place and not use it. After I get rid of these bandits, I will find a good place to establish Shenzhen's sect here. Morong Yu secretly decided on this matter. He did not care what happened here. All he saw now was an incomparably dense, immortal spirit chi. Moreover, the other sects did not dare to establish a sect here. Without competition, it would only be beneficial for Shenzhen's development. There are actually people who dare to go deep into the Southern Mountains. This is something that is hard to come by in 10,000 years. Not far in front of Morong Yu, two young men were hiding on top of a mountain peak. They looked at Morong Yu and the others who were slowly walking in with a face of surprise. The Southern Mountains was a common taboo for all the sects in the Lingnan region. Not only did they not dare to establish a sect here, even their disciples did not dare to go deep into the Southern Mountains. For a long time, the Southern Mountains had become a forbidden area that was not a forbidden area. It had always been a paradise for bandits. It was because the sects in the Lingnan region did not dare to go deep into the Lingnan region that they established their stronghold in the depths of the Lingnan region. It was also because of this that they had not been wiped out. Otherwise, with the bandits' actions, they would have been destroyed by those sects long ago. They were used to no immortals daring to enter the Southern Mountains. This group of bandits had obviously treated the Southern Mountains as their territory. Therefore, when they saw Morong Yu and the others daring to go deep into the Southern Mountains, they were shocked. These people are only in the exalted immortal realm. One of the young men said disdainfully. Morong Yu was in the exalted immortal realm. Although Zhou Dong was in the nine heavens Xian immortal realm, he was requested by Morong Yu to suppress his realm to the exalted immortal realm. Therefore, when the two bandits saw Morong Yu and the others, although they were shocked, they were also full of disdain. Who dares to trespass into the Southern Mountains? Do you have a death wish? When Morong Yu and the others approached, the two bandits who were on sentry duty rushed out and blocked in front of Morong Yu. You're just a group of bandits. How dare you claim the Southern Mountains as your own? You're simply courting death. Morong Yu sneered. He did not take these two golden immortal bandits seriously at all. Go back and tell your leader that I'm here to destroy you today. Tell all of you to wash your necks and wait for me. Morong Yu continued to say disdainfully. How preposterous. We've always been the ones robbing, burning, killing, and plundering. Today, someone says that he wants to destroy us. He's even an exalted immortal? I'm going to die of laughter. One of the bandits laughed out loud. Obviously, he did not take Morong Yu's words seriously. I haven't gone out for a long time. My hands are itching. Today I'll kill you all. There's also a large black dog. As the saying goes, when dog meat rolls, even immortals can't stand still. Today I'll kill immortals, slaughter dogs, and eat dog meat. One of the bandits laughed savagely and charged toward Muronyu. Woof! You F***ers. Lord Heavenly Dog will swallow you all. Hearing this, the large black dog was instantly enraged. With a loud bark, he jumped out and pounced toward the golden immortal bandit. Generally speaking, if the large black dog was called a dog, the large black dog would be displeased. What more if he wanted to slaughter and eat his dog meat? This was definitely his reverse scale. You're courting death. The bandit sneered disdainfully. He shot out a palm strike toward the large black dog's head, wanting to kill him directly. You want to eat Lord Heavenly Dog? Lord Heavenly Dog will eat you. The large black dog was furious. He turned into a flash of black light and shot over. During this process, he suddenly opened his mouth. Kacha! There was a sound that sounded like glass shattering, and a massive black hole was instantly bitten into the void in front of the large black dog. Meanwhile, that bandit was directly swallowed by the large black dog. He was eaten by a dog? How is this possible? Seeing that his companion had actually been swallowed by the large black dog, the remaining bandit was shocked. There was an expression of disbelief on his face. Chapter 434. The large black dog swallowed the golden celestial stage bandit in a single gulp, causing the other bandit to instantly pale with fright. Even though he had seen his companion being swallowed with his own eyes, this bandit still couldn't believe his eyes. No matter how he looked at it, this large black dog was only an ordinary dog. However, this ordinary dog actually possessed such a terrifying mystical power. A golden celestial stage bandit had actually been swallowed before he even had time to react. The large black dog was a heavenly dog, and he possessed the innate mystical power of devouring. Ever since he had ascended to the celestial realm with Muronyu, his strength had also rapidly increased. At this moment, the large black dog could swallow golden celestials in a single gulp. Even if he wasn't as strong as Muronyu, he was still close. This guy had never cultivated before, so even Muronyu was astonished by his rapid growth and strength. The heavenly dogs had never cultivated before, and their cultivation relied entirely on devouring. This was what the large black dog said to Muronyu. Only now did Muronyu feel relieved. After ascending to the celestial realm, the large black dog had already devoured many celestials. The reason why his strength had increased so quickly was most likely because he had digested those celestials. This large black dog is really too terrifying. Another bandit looked at the large black dog with an expression of horror on his face. At the same time, he shouted loudly as he turned around and ran toward the bandit's lair. Woof! The large black dog barked loudly, and his figure flashed as he transformed into a streak of black light and pounced toward the bandit. During this process, he opened his mouth again and viciously bit down. This bandit released a miserable cry, and then he was swallowed alive by the large black dog. You're courting death. The large black dog seemed to still be angry. The bandit's miserable cry finally attracted the attention of the other bandits in the bandit's lair. Right after the large black dog swallowed that bandit, multiple powerful divine senses swept over from the bandit's lair. Muronyu waved a hand, and 5 figures instantly appeared beside him. Kill them all. Leave no one alive, Muronyu shouted coldly. The 5 figures that had just appeared didn't even have time to steady themselves before they soared into the air and charged toward the bandit's lair. These were 5-9 Heavens Shiena mortals. Ever since Muronyu received this mission, he had decided to exterminate this group of bandits. After all, these people were all evil bandits. However, according to the information from the Heavenly Punisher Palace, there were 5-9 Heavens Shiena mortals among the bandits. Therefore, Muronyu sent 5-9 Heavens Shiena mortals. The 5-9 Heavens Shiena mortals did not hesitate. They immediately flew above the thieves' lair and unleashed a terrifying force. They reached out their hands and slapped the thieves' lair. Rumble! The attacks of the 5-9 heavens Xian immortals were swift and violent. Their terrifying chi even crushed some of the weaker bandits. The 5 giant hands shattered the void and slammed down with a terrifying aura that could destroy the world. After an earth-shattering explosion, the bandits' lair instantly turned into a mess. Countless bandits were directly killed. Suddenly, the bandits' lair was in chaos, and countless bandits left. Because of the Namling Mountains, no one had ever dared to destroy this den of thieves. Because the disciples of the big sects in the Namling Mountains had never dared to go deep into the Namling Mountains. The bandits' lair was in the depths of the Namling Mountains. Apart from the bandits, no one else would come here. Therefore, they basically did not have anyone patrolling. Once they were attacked, the entire bandits' lair was in chaos. The 5-9 heavens Xian immortals did not care about these bandits. Their mission was only to destroy the entire bandits' lair. Who dares to make trouble in the Blackwind stronghold? An angry roar came from the depths of the bandits' lair. At the same time, 5 figures soared into the sky and rushed toward the 5-9 heavens Xian immortals in the void. The 5 leaders have finally made their move. Seeing the 5 leaders in the void, the bandits who were dizzy from the killing immediately burst into tears. Kill them. Kill all these intruders. The bandits on the ground shouted one by one. They had always been the ones who killed people, when had others killed them. Therefore, when their 5 fort masters made their move, their banditry nature was exposed. Blackwind strongholds, 5 stronghold masters, 5-9 heavens, Xian immortals. Murong sneered as he looked at the Blackwind stronghold's stronghold master, who was brimming with killing intent. With a wave of his hand, 10 figures appeared beside Murong out of thin air. Leave no ordinary bandits alive. Leave at least one of the 5 leaders alive, Murong said indifferently as he looked at the 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold in the void. The reason why Murong wanted them alive was because he wanted to know the secret of the Namling Mountains and the possible relationship between these bandits and the Heavenly Penalty Palace. 16 9 heavens Xian immortals. The 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold exclaimed when they saw the 10 immortals appear beside Murong out of thin air. Including Zodong, there were 16 9 heavens Xian immortals on Murong side. Just the number of 9 heavens Xian immortals was enough to suppress the experts of the Blackwind stronghold. How did these people appear out of thin air? Who are they? At this moment, the 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were very shocked. They all looked at Murong side with uncertainty. Although Zodong and the others were 9 heaven Xian immortals, the 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were not idiots. They could tell at a glance that Murong was the one in charge. This young man, who is only an exalted immortal, is definitely not simple. Could he be a disciple of a big power in the Lingnan region? If not, how could he have so many 9 heavens Xian immortals under him? If he is not a disciple of a big power, why would the experts they sent out just happen to be 9 heavens Xian immortals? However, all the powers in the Lingnan region don't dare to go deep into the Namling Mountains. Why would they dare to go deep? Could it be that they are not from the Lingnan region? But shouldn't be. Even if they are not from the Lingnan region, they wouldn't dare to enter the Namling Mountains, right? Who are you people? The leader of the Blackwind stronghold's power surged. Waves of terrifying aura constantly erupted. He looked through the 9 heavens Xian immortals and stared at Murong. The 9 heavens Xian immortals surrounded them from afar, but did not attack. This was because Murong had ordered them to keep them alive. The people who will kill you, Murong said lightly. How dare you enter the Namling Mountains? Aren't you afraid of being killed? The 3rd leader of the Blackwind stronghold sneered. Killed? Murong frowned slightly. There is indeed something wrong with the Namling Mountains, and it seems that these leaders know something. The more these people knew something, the more Murong wanted to take them down. This was because the secret of the Namling Mountains was related to the development of the Chaos Shenzhen. If he did not know the secret of the Namling Mountains that even the disciples of the other big sects in the Lingnan region did not dare to enter, Murong would not dare to rashly establish the Chaos Shenzhen sect here. Otherwise, once something happened, The Shangzhen sect would be destroyed at any time. Take them down and kill all the other bandits. Murong Yu ordered coldly. Brothers, run. The moment Murong Yu gave the order, the first leader of the Black Wind stronghold roared and turned to flee. The other 4 chieftains seemed to have a tacit understanding as well. Before the head chieftain's voice had even faded away, they had already retreated. Want to run? Let's see where you can run to. More than 10 Nine Heavens Xian immortals had already locked onto the 5 leaders of the Black Wind stronghold. The moment they fled, they attacked at the same time. The power of 15 Nine Heavens Xian immortals attacking at the same time was very terrifying. Rumble, a large area of the void, was directly shattered by their power. After the terrifying power shattered the void, it enveloped the world and directly bombarded the bodies of the 5 castellans. The 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were very powerful. One of them had even reached the mid-stage 9 Heavens Xian immortal realm. However, they were facing 15 Nine Heavens Xian immortals attacking at the same time. In other words, each of them had to block the attacks of 3 Nine Heavens Xian immortals. The 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were indeed extraordinary. They managed to block the first and second wave of attacks from the 15 Nine Heavens Xian immortals. However, how could it be so easy to block the attacks of 15 Nine Heavens Xian immortals? When the third wave of attacks arrived, they still had not broken out of the encirclement. They could only choose to face it head-on. Bang! 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 The 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were sent flying by the explosive power of the 15 Nine Heavens Xian immortals. They spat out blood in the air and seemed to be severely injured. Take them down! One of the 9 Heavens Xian immortals shouted and slapped the 5th bandit chief. A terrifying power rushed into the 5th bandit chief's body and instantly destroyed his meridians. At the same time, the other 9 Heavens Xian immortals also made their moves and took down the remaining 4 leaders. While the 9 Heavens Xian immortals made their moves, Zodong had also left Murong Yu's side and began to kill the ordinary bandits of the Blackwind stronghold. Although the Blackwind stronghold had many great overarching golden celestials and overarching heavenly supreme celestials, they could not withstand a single blow from the 9 Heavens Xian immortals. They were instantly killed. It did not take long for the thousands of bandits of the Blackwind stronghold to be wiped out. Apart from the 5 Nine Heavens Xian immortals who were taken down, none of the bandits fled. After the battle, the Blackwind stronghold had 50 great overarching golden celestials and 200 overarching heavenly supreme celestials. Most of the bandits were golden celestials and Xian immortals, but there were not many heavenly celestials and exalted celestials. When Murong Yu learned about the Blackwind stronghold strength, he could not help but sigh inwardly. Their strength has surpassed the strength of an ordinary third-rate force. Even an ordinary third-rate force is no match for the Blackwind stronghold, let alone an unrated force. Due to the Southern Ridge, the disciples of the major forces in the Southern Ridge Prefecture did not dare to enter the Southern Ridge. This was why the Blackwind stronghold had grown so powerful. Pack up everything you can and bring it with you. Murong Yu ordered Zodong before he entered the Hichu Luoshu world. He was curious about the secret of the Southern Ridge. Chapter 435. In the Hichu Luoshu world, the 5 leaders of the Blackwind stronghold were lying on the ground and groaning. They were all 9 Heaven Xian immortals, but they were captured by Murong Yu's people. Their meridians were destroyed, and they became cripples. However, when Murong Yu came closer, the leaders of the Blackwind stronghold all revealed a ferocious expression as they glared at Murong Yu. Towards the person who destroyed the Blackwind stronghold and captured them, they naturally hated Murong Yu to the core. They wanted nothing more than to tear Murong Yu apart. Murong Yu walked over and glanced at them indifferently before saying, "I'm very curious. The Southern Mountain Range is the forbidden area of the Southern Mountain region. No one dares to enter. You guys actually dared to build the Blackwind stronghold in the depths of the Southern Mountain Range?" Humph. The leaders of the Blackwind stronghold snorted and turned their heads away. They couldn't be bothered to look at Murong-yu. Seeing that the five of them didn't cooperate, Murong-yu couldn't help but sneer. I advise you guys to cooperate. Otherwise, I don't mind reading your memories. All right, the memory reading method I know has a huge flaw. After reading your memories, you won't die, but you'll become an idiot. The bodies of the 5 leaders of the Black Wind stronghold trembled, and their eyes revealed a look of fear. They weren't afraid of death, but if they became an idiot, thinking about how they were originally 9 heaven Xian immortals, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Even if we die, we won't let you have your way. The leader of the Black Wind stronghold looked at Murong-yu and said angrily, Die? I want to see how you guys will die. Murong-yu sneered. Not only did he cripple these people's powers, but he also directly imprisoned them. In other words, other than being able to speak, they couldn't do anything else. Even if they wanted to commit suicide, it was impossible. The 5 leaders of the Black Wind stronghold were silent. What secrets does the Southern Mountain Range have? Seeing their silence, Murong-yu sneered in his heart. He did not believe that these people would not compromise. The 5 fort masters of the Black Wind stockade looked at each other and saw the compromise in each other's eyes. They also saw the surprise in each other's eyes. He actually doesn't know the secret of the Southern Mountain Range. The 5 of them were greatly surprised. In fact, the secret of the Southern Mountains was not a secret in the Southern Mountains region. The Southern Mountain Range is the graveyard of experts. Any expert of the Immortal King realm or above who enters the Southern Mountain Range will be killed for no reason. There is no possibility of leaving alive. The Black Wind Stronghold's chief said, Cultivators of the Celestial King realm or above will be killed if they enter the Southern Mountains. Murong-yu frowned slightly. Could it be that there was some kind of rule here? However, this also explained why no one from the major sects dared to enter the Southern Mountains. Cultivators of the Celestial King realm could not enter. Cultivators of the 9 heavens Xian immortal realm could not do anything to the Black Wind Stronghold. They would even be killed by the people of the Black Wind Stronghold. No wonder the Southern Mountain Range's immortal spiritual energy is so dense, but no major sects have established a sect here. So that's why. However, what is in the Southern Mountain Range? Murong-yu pondered in his heart and asked at the same time. No one knows what is in the Southern Mountain Range. Who killed those cultivators of the Celestial King realm or above? This is an unsolved mystery. The Black Wind Stronghold's chief said, You don't even know those major sects. Maybe you do, but we don't know. The third chief said, Could it be that you really don't know those major sects? Then the Heavenly Punisher Palace's mission to exterminate the Black Wind Stronghold is to investigate the secret of the Southern Mountain Range. Or is it really just to kill the bandits of the Black Wind Stronghold? What is your relationship with the Heavenly Punisher Palace? Heavenly Punisher Palace? You're talking about the Heavenly Punisher Palace, right? As soon as Murong-yu finished speaking, the 5th chief could not help but sneer. So you're from the Heavenly Punisher Palace, TSK, TSK. Those bastards don't dare to go deep into the Southern Mountain Range, but they sent you to your death? If I'm not wrong, one of your missions is to exterminate the Black Wind Stronghold, right? Murong-yu's eyes flashed. You know about the Heavenly Punisher Palace? Murong-yu was truly shocked. The Heavenly Punisher Palace was a major sect in the Southern Mountain Range. Although it was extremely low-key, the immortals of Southern Mountain still knew of its existence. However, very few people knew that the Heavenly Punisher Palace was the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Only those major powers knew that the Heavenly Punisher Palace was the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Looking at the scale of the Black Wind Stronghold, it was clearly not a major power. Thus, the fact that they knew the Heavenly Punisher Palace was the Heavenly Punisher Palace was even more shocking. The 5 of us were originally the enforcers of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. We just didn't like the Heavenly Punisher Palace and ended up in the Black Wind Stronghold. The chief sneered. Clearly, he did not like the Heavenly Punisher Palace. You were the enforcers of the Heavenly Punisher Palace? Murong-yu could not help but exclaim. At this point, Murong-yu finally understood why the Heavenly Punisher Palace gave him the mission of exterminating the Black Wind Stronghold. It turned out that they were the traders of the Black Wind stronghold. The Heavenly Punisher Palace is really sinister. Whether it was the mission description or the information, they did not mention the identity of the 5 of them. Even the words Black Wind Stronghold were not mentioned. Murong Yu was very dissatisfied with the Heavenly Punisher Palace's approach. Suddenly, Murong Yu's heart moved. Which batch of people did I come here to do the mission? Murong Yu suddenly thought that the 5 chiefs of the Black Wind Stronghold were the enforcers of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Moreover, the Black Wind Stronghold had been established for a long time. Presumably, the Heavenly Punisher Palace had long wanted to exterminate the Black Wind Stronghold. After all, if outsiders knew that the bandits of the Black Wind Stronghold were actually from the Heavenly Punisher Palace, even if they knew that the 5 of them were the traitors of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, they would still not believe them. They would still suspect that the Heavenly Punisher Palace had deliberately set them up as chess pieces. Moreover, even if people believed that the 5 chiefs were the traitors of the Heavenly Punisher Palace, they were still people of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Seeing them commit evil, burning, killing, and looting, these people naturally did not have a good impression of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. No matter what the reason was, the Heavenly Punisher Palace needed to exterminate the bandits of the Black Wind Stronghold. However, the Black Wind Stronghold was in the depths of the Southern Mountain Range. Immortal kings were unable to enter. 9 heavens Xian immortals could enter, but the Heavenly Punisher Palace did not seem to send a large number of 9 heavens Xian immortals into the depths of the Southern Mountain Range to exterminate the Black Wind Stronghold. They only treated it as a mission for the enforcers. Over the countless years, I can't remember how many people of the Heavenly Punisher Palace have died at our hands. The second chief looked at Murong Yu with a cold smile. As expected, Murong Yu's eyes flashed with a sharp light. He was somewhat unhappy. If it were not for the fact that he had many 9 heavens Xian immortals as his subordinates, then he would have entered here just like those disciples of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Perhaps after a few hundred years, when he was strong enough, he would be able to complete this mission. However, how could the Heavenly Punisher Palace be so sure that he would reach the 9 heavens Xian immortal realm within 1,000 years? Moreover, even if he reached the 9 heavens Xian immortal realm, he would not be a match for these 5 people, right? Conspiracy. These 2 words suddenly appeared in Murong Yu's mind. At this moment, he realized that his mission seemed to be a conspiracy against him. However, he was just a high immortal. What kind of conspiracy could the Heavenly Punisher Palace have? Next, Murong Yu asked about some secrets of the Southern Mountain Range. Perhaps it was because they had opened the topic, or perhaps they were really afraid that Murong Yu would use the soul-searching technique to read their memories and turn them into idiots. These bandits actually told him everything they knew. After getting the information he wanted, Murong Yu slapped the 5 fort masters to death. These 5 guys were not only traitors of the Heavenly Punisher Palace. Most importantly, these 5 guys usually did all kinds of evil. They really deserved to die. For this kind of people, Murong Yu did not even have the thought of subduing them for his own use. Even if the other party was a 9 heavens Xian immortal realm expert. What secrets does the Southern Mountain Range have? Immortal King realm experts are actually unable to enter here. Once they enter, they will definitely die. Murong Yu muttered to himself, should I establish the Shenzhen sect here or not? No other immortals dare to enter here. Establishing here is absolutely safe. However, although Shenzhen sect will not have an Immortal King realm expert in a short time, once the Shenzhen sect is established here, it will be much more troublesome to move in the future. No one dared to enter the Southern Mountain Range because of the immortal spirit energy. Establishing a sect here was definitely the best choice. However, if they could not solve the secret of the Southern Mountain Range, it would not be safe to establish the Shenzhen sect here. I have to think about this matter carefully. Murong Yu muttered to himself and decided to put this problem aside first. He would first see if there was a way to solve the secret of the Southern Mountain Range. Most importantly, Zhou Dong and the others had already sorted out the treasures of the Black Wind Stockade. 10,000 immortal meridians. Murong Yu was shocked. This Black Wind Stockade was equivalent to a third-rate force. How could it have so many immortal meridians? Moreover, these immortal meridians were second-grade and even third-grade immortal meridians. An ordinary third-rate force would not have many immortal meridians in the entire sect. But this Black Wind Stockade, with the strength of the Black Wind Stockade, it was impossible for them to destroy a stronger sect and seize the immortal meridians. The reason why they had so many immortal meridians should be because they had collected the immortal meridians in the Southern Mountain Range. The Southern Mountain Range was extremely vast. No one knew how many miles it was. All along, not many people dared to enter the Southern Mountain Range. It could even be said that the entire Southern Mountain Range belonged to the Black Wind Stockade. It was normal for them to be able to obtain 10,000 immortal meridians in the Southern Mountain Range. Other than that, the Black Wind Stockade also had a large number of immortal weapons. However, these are all low-grade immortal weapons. Even if they were devoured by the Celestial Slashing Sword, it would not be of much use. However, these immortal weapons were just right for the disciples of the Primal Chaos Shenzhen to use. However, with so many people in the Shenzhen, the Black Wind Stockade's tens of thousands of immortal weapons were far from enough. Other than the immortal meridians and immortal weapons, the Black Wind Stockade also had various immortal pills and heavenly treasures. The wealth within was more than anything Murong you had ever seen. After all, this was accumulated by the Black Wind Stockade over countless years. They had robbed countless people in sections. Now, it was Murong you who had benefited. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.